Tonight, you don't need to focus. You don't need to imagine anything clearly. You don't need to remember every word. Just let the sound of my voice stay with you as the day slowly fades away. If this helps you relax, you can gently like this video or subscribe so you can always find your way back here. There will be no sudden sounds, no interruptions, just a calm story and the quiet rhythm of the night. Now, take a slow breath in and let it go. The story begins. Morning light streamed through the small window of Ellie's room, illuminating the dust motes that floated lazily in the air. The faint scent of brine from the sea below mingled with the earthly aroma of the inn's well-worn wood. Ellie rose from his bed, thick blanket slipping from his shoulders, and moved to the window, taking a moment to admire the view. The lighthouse stood tall on the rocky coast, its white and red stripes a beacon against the cerulean sky. Waves lapped at the shore, sending sprays of salt water that sparkled in the sunlight. Beyond the lighthouse, the horizon stretched endlessly, the sea meeting the sky in an embrace of color. Lee felt an echoing calm as he took in the familiar scene, one that had greeted him day after day during his stay. With a soft creak, he turned away from the window and made his way to the small table in the corner where a lantern awaited him. The lamp was an antique, brass and glass, its surface still retaining a hint of shine despite the years. Lee filled it with fresh oil, careful not to spill, and lit the wick, watching the flame settle into a steady flicker. It would soon cast a warm light in his room, a small comfort in this coastal retreat. The inn was quiet in the mornings, the echoes of the sea punctuating the calm. Most of its guests were still asleep. Only the innkeeper, a robust woman named Maggie, could be heard bustling about in the kitchen below, her muted hum mixing with the clatter of pots. Billy appreciated this tranquility, the sacred stillness that enveloped the inn before the day unfolded. After lighting the lamp, Billy moved to the small sink in the corner, splashing his face with cool water. The chill was refreshing, invigorating him for the day ahead. He dressed in a simple woolen sweater and sturdy trousers, ready for whatever the day might bring. A daily routine grounded him, a series of small comforts he cherished. Once dressed, Billy stepped out onto the narrow balcony that wrapped around the lighthouse. The wooden slats were worn but reassuring under his feet as he leaned against the railing. The rhythmic sound of waves beneath him felt like a heartbeat, a reminder of the life thriving just out of sight. From this vantage point, he could see the inn-sloping roof and the gardens where Maggie had planted wildflowers. The colors were muted but lovely, their petals catching the sun like small jewels scattered across a green velvet cloth. Billy often imagined the stories the gardens held, how they had grown alongside the inn and the lighthouse, and the unspoken lives that intersected in this quiet sanctuary. He turned his gaze outward, spotting a small fishing boat bobbing on the horizon. The silhouette of a figure moved about on board, casting a line with practiced ease. Lee felt a pull of curiosity. The fishermen, with their tales of the sea and secrets whispered among the waves, always intrigued him. He had yet to determine whether the small boat belonged to a local or a visitor drawn to the charm of the inn. Lee took a deep breath, savoring the salt air as he retreated back into the lighthouse. He had chores to attend to, each one a gentle anchor in his day. The lamp flickered behind him, its light a faithful companion. He gathered his cleaning supplies and descended the spiral staircase. The wooden stairs creaked softly underfoot, memories trapped in the grain. He arrived at the main floor, where the common area and kitchen awaited. Maddie was busy preparing breakfast, the aroma of sizzling bacon and eggs filling the air, drawing Lily's attention. She paused, looking up with a grin. "Good morning, Lily." "You're just in time for breakfast," she said, her voice rich and warm. "Thank you, Maggie." "The smell is delightful," he replied, grabbing a cloth to help with the tables. While he worked, he caught snippets of conversation from the few guests scattered around, their voices low and cozy. Each shared a laugh, their camaraderie wrapping around the room like a comforting quilt. Lee cherished these moments of community, though he often stayed on the periphery. He preferred to observe, content in his solitude. The sun climbed higher in the sky, filling the inn with soft light. After breakfast, he tidied up the common area, dusting the corners and fluffing the cushions on the couch. Each task brought a feeling of purpose, a quiet reassurance that he was part of something larger, each detail contributing to the sanctuary they all shared. Maddie occasionally checked in, her laughter a buoy that brightened the space. "You do more than any of my hired hands ever could," she teased lightly. Billy smiled, his cheeks warming at the compliment. Once the morning chores were complete, he decided to venture outside. The sun kissed his cheeks as he stepped through the door, the air refreshing and alive. He wandered toward the weathered path leading away from the inn, taking in the sights and sounds of the coastal landscape. Seagulls cried above him, their wings spread wide against the blue expanse, while the gentle rhythm of waves provided a calming backdrop. He halted at the edge of a rocky outcrop, observing the shoreline where barnacles clung to the rocks and tide pools shimmered in the sunlight. Billy knelt to peer into one, entranced by the small world teeming with life beneath its surface. Amid the shells and seaweed, he spotted something peculiar, a glint of silver hidden among the stones. Curiosity piqued, he reached out, fingers brushing against a small, weathered locket. It was tarnished yet held an air of mystery, its delicate engravings almost worn away by time. Billy held it tightly, contemplating its history, the memories it might encapsulate. After a moment, he tucked the locket into his pocket for safekeeping, deciding to ponder its significance later. For now, he returned to the inn, letting the warmth of the sun guide his steps back. The afternoon slipped by gently. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, Billy took up his position in the lighthouse once more. This time, he pulled a chair closer to the window, replacing the locket on the table beside him. He had settled with the book, its pages yellowed and soft under his fingers, the sentences carrying him far away to distant lands while he remained in his coastal haven. Outside, the sun cast a golden hue over the waves, each ripple glistening like scattered diamonds on the surface. Billy watched the light change, shifting from bright white to an amber glow that bathed the room in a warm embrace. Time seemed to blur, lost in the comfort of the story and the gentle sound of nature's lullaby. As dusk approached, Billy closed the book and moved to light the lantern again, the flickering flame casting dancing shadows across his walls. The evening brought a stillness, the guests gathering near the fireplace below, their voices muffled and rich, full of life. Billy often enjoyed listening to their conversations, their laughter and stories layered like a soothing balm over the evening. He remained in the lighthouse, enveloped in warmth and light, comforted by the knowledge that he was part of this quaint community, even from a distance. The night deepened, the sky outside an ink-eyed blue, stars beginning to peek through. He settled into his chair once more, watching the lighthouse beam sweep across the darkened waves, a steadfast sentinel keeping watch over the shore. As the air outside grew cooler, Billy could hear the soft crackling of the fire down below. He felt nestled in his own little world, the secure hum of life continuing on without him. Yet, a gentle tug on his curiosity lingered, the locket in his pocket a quiet mystery waiting to unfold. After midnight, the hours stretched long and tranquil, the inn quiet save for a few whispers of late-night conversations. Billy had taken to revisiting the locket, fingers tracing its edges as he turned it over in his palm. Perhaps it had belonged to someone who once stayed here. As he pondered, the lighthouse continued its steady watch, the beam cutting through the darkness like a guide for lost souls at sea. Billy found solace in this thought, the stories contained within the walls, the lives that had passed through these rooms, all echoing in the tranquil night. The day had moved in circles, the gentle rhythm of life continuing endlessly. With the coastal breeze drifting through his window, Billy set the locket aside with a soft smile, cradled in warmth and mystery, ready to let the tendrils of sleep enfold him. Billy closed his eyes, the soft hush of the night wrapping around him like a familiar quilt. The gentle swells of the ocean played a lullaby in the background, a rhythm that matched the steady beating of his heart. The lantern flickered in a comforting glow, shadows stretching and shifting on the walls, dancing in tune with the whispers of the sea air that drifted through the open window. He sank deeper into his chair, a worn piece of furniture that had molded to his form over the years. Billy thought of the stories the inn could share, the lives that had crossed its threshold, It was a place where laughter mingled with the salty breeze, where secrets could easily settle into the cracks of the old floorboards. Outside, the lighthouse beam continued its vigilant dance, a silent promise to the sailors navigating the waters. As sleep began to pull him under, a soft sound broke through the calmness, delicate and almost imperceptible. A gentle knock echoed from the door, barely breaking the serene atmosphere. Lee stirred, curiosity stirring within him. He pushed himself to his feet, stretching with a yawn before moving to the door, the creaking floorboards a familiar complaint beneath his weight. He opened the door to find a young woman standing in the dim light. Her hair framed her face in soft waves, the pale glow of the lantern casting gentle highlights upon her features. She wore a simple dress, its fabric slightly frayed at the edges, a testament to the journey she had taken to reach this inn. "I'm sorry to disturb you," she said, her voice soft yet steady, a hint of the ocean in her tone. "I heard you alone up here and thought perhaps you might want some company." Lily, a little taken aback, offered a warm smile. "You're welcome to join me. I was just about to turn in for the night." She stepped into the room, the faint scent of salt and wildflowers trailing in behind her. Willie gestured to the chair opposite him, feeling a rush of unexpected warmth at the thought of sharing this quiet space. "I'm Willie," he introduced, settling back into his own chair. "I'm Margaret," she replied, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear as she sat down. There was an air of calm about her, an ease that made the small space feel more alive. "What brings you to this little corner of the world?" Lee asked, genuinely intrigued. "I came seeking some solitude," she said, her gaze drifting to the window, where the night sky hung heavy with stars. "I've been traveling for some time, and thought this inn might offer me a respite." Lee nodded, understanding her desire for peace amid life's chaos. "It does have a way of making one feel at home," he said, glancing toward the lighthouse beam that sliced through the darkness, illuminating the water beyond. "What do you think of it so far?" "It's lovely," Margaret replied, a smile breaking across her face. "There's something magical about the way the lighthouse shines, like a beacon for lost travelers." Lily's heart warmed at her words, a feeling of camaraderie blooming between them. "I've always found that light comforting," he confessed. "It reminds me that there's always a way back, no matter how far one may stray." They sat in companionable silence for a moment, the calm of the night wrapping around them. Margaret leaned forward, resting her chin on her hands. "Do you often stay up here, Lily?" "Most nights," he admitted. "I enjoy the stillness and the view of the ocean. Each evening feels like a new adventure." Her eyes sparkled with curiosity. "And in those adventures, have you found anything particularly intriguing?" Lily's thoughts drifted to the locket tucked away in his pocket, but he hesitated, unsure of whether to share. "I found something today," he said slowly, pulling it from his pocket and placing it delicately on the table between them. "A small locket, tarnished but whole. I wonder whose story it carries." Margaret's eyes widened, her fingers reaching out to trace the edges of the locket. "It's beautiful," she murmured, her voice low. "Have you opened it?" "Not yet," Lee replied, a tinge of excitement creeping into his voice. "I've thought about it. It feels like a secret waiting to be revealed." Margaret looked up at him, her expression a blend of wonder and anticipation. "Would you allow me to join you? It feels like we could uncover something together." Lee found himself nodding, caught in the moment. He carefully opened the locket, revealing a small, faded portrait of a woman, her soft features hinting at a life filled with stories untold. The image was delicate, the colors muted by time, but it spoke volumes of the past. Margaret's breath caught in her throat as she leaned closer, examining the portrait. "Who do you think she was?" she asked softly, her eye shining with intrigue. "I wish I knew," Lee replied, his heart quickening. "Perhaps she was a traveler like you, or someone who called this place home long ago." They shared a moment of silence, both absorbed in the mystery before them. Outside, the sound of waves crashing echoed against the shore, a steady reminder of the world beyond. The lighthouse beam continued its vigilant sweep, a rhythm that felt almost like a heartbeat, grounding them in the night. As they lingered over the locket, Margaret shared stories of her travels, tales of distant lands filled with vibrant markets and skies painted in colors Lee had never seen. He listened intently, each word weaving into the fabric of their evening together, as though her adventures were adding new layers to the calm of the lighthouse. Billy, in turn, spoke of the inn and its history, the guests who had come and gone, each leaving a trace behind. He spoke of the laughter that resonated from the common room, of the evening spent sharing stories by the fire. Margaret's laughter mirrored his own, a gentle melody that floated in the air, drawing them both deeper into the enchantment of the night. Time slipped away, the minutes melting into hours as the world outside continued its tranquil rhythm. The air in the room grew crisp as the night deepened, but neither Ellie nor Margaret felt the chill. Instead, they found warmth in their shared words, a connection growing amid the cozy glow of the lantern. Eventually, Margaret leaned back in her chair, her eyes sparkling like the stars now twinkling outside. "There's something delightful about finding a stranger in a place like this," she said, her voice softening. "It feels like fate." Elise smiled at her sentiment, feeling the truth of her words resonate within him. "Often, it's the unexpected moments that weave the most beautiful stories." She nodded, her gaze drifting to the window, where the lighthouse beam painted flickering patterns across the walls. "Will you keep the locket close?" she asked, a serious note in her voice. Lee considered her question, feeling the weight of the small object in his palm. "I think I will. It feels like a piece of something greater, a reminder that each person has their own journey." As if sensing the depth of their conversation, the lighthouse beam paused for a moment, casting a soft light over their faces. Billy caught the glint of the locket in Margaret's eyes, a glimmer of shared understanding that bridged the distance between them. Then, from below, the faint sound of laughter echoed up the stairs, voices mingling with the crackling of the fire. Margaret glanced at the door, a wistful smile appearing on her lips. "I should probably join the others before they wonder where I've been." Billy felt a pang of reluctance. Though he had enjoyed their quiet time together, he understood the call of the evening. "I'll be right here," he said gently. "Perhaps we'll share more stories tomorrow." "Tomorrow," she echoed, a promise in her eyes. "I'd like that." As she stood, Billy felt a bittersweet tug at his heart. The warmth of her company lingered in the air as she turned to leave, a soft wind following her out into the night. The door closed quietly behind her, leaving Lee alone once more in the gentle glow of the lantern. He looked down at the locket resting on the table, its surface reflecting the light, and felt a rush of anticipation for what tomorrow might bring. The night had unfurled in unexpected ways, each moment shared with Margaret adding to the quiet magic of his coastal haven. With a deep breath, Lee settled back into his chair, the whispers of the sea brushing against the lighthouse walls. He could still hear the distant laughter from below, a reminder of life's vibrant pulse beyond his solitude. The world felt larger somehow, woven into the threads of connection he'd found in one evening. As he closed his eyes again, the locket resting within reach, Lee surrendered to the calm of the night. The mysteries that lay ahead awaited him, each new day promising the softness of shared stories, the glow of lantern light, and the warmth of unexpected companionship. The night unfolded gently, wrapping Lee in a tender embrace of warmth and quiet. The flickering lantern cast dancing shadows on the wooden walls, making the room feel alive, as though it shared his thoughts and secrets. He found comfort in the rhythmic sound of the waves lapping against the shore, a melody that accompanied his reflections. He had thought the night might have offered sleep, but the question sparked by Margaret remained a gentle hum in the back of his mind. He reached for the locket again, its cool metal cool against his fingertips. Holding it to the light, he admired the intricate design, the patterns worn by time. Perhaps it had held more secrets than he could have imagined, stories yearning to be told. With a sigh, Lee placed the locket back on the table, allowing his thoughts to drift toward Margaret. He could still recall the way her eyes lit up while sharing tales of her travels, the way her laughter mingled with the sound of the fire crackling below. Each story felt like a thread woven into a larger fabric, one that only life could create, full of colors and textures that he longed to know more about. The laughter downstairs grew louder, a gate opening to a world he momentarily deemed as a distant realm. Taking a deep breath, Lee decided it was time to join the others. He rose slowly from his chair, the wood creaking beneath him as he moved. The comforting warmth radiated from the hearth like a welcoming hand, nudging him towards connection. As Lee descended the narrow staircase, the sounds of lively conversation wrapped around him, pulling him into the inn's embrace. The common room was aglow with candlelight, and the flickering flames threw soft shadows against the walls. Guests sat huddled together, sharing stories over mugs of steaming tea and plates of bread. The atmosphere felt like a gathering of souls, all finding solace in the company of one another. He spotted Margaret seated at a table near the hearth, animatedly chatting with an older couple, their laughter punctuated by the occasional clink of teacups. Elif's presence seemed to draw her gaze, and her smile brightened the room even more. "Ellie, come join us," she called out, her voice rising above the gentle clamor. The older couple looked up, their friendly faces inviting. "Would you like a cup of tea?" Margaret asked, motioning toward the low table. "We were just sharing tales from our travels." He nodded, feeling the warmth of their welcome. Billy settled into a chair beside Margaret, the heat from the fireplace washing over him. The world outside faded, replaced by the shared stories that floated around him. The older couple, Mr. and Mrs. Hawthorne, had traveled from a town not far away, visiting the inn for its famous views of the coast. They described their explorations of nearby cliffs, each word painting a vivid picture of adventure. Billy listened intently, the familiar excitement of travel igniting something within him, a longing to see the world beyond the horizon. Margaret interjected between their stories, sharing her own journey through the countryside, describing the fields of wildflowers that danced under the sun, her eyes sparkling with the memories. Billy felt as though he was being led through an array of vibrant landscapes, each tale woven with emotions and dreams. As the evening wore on, Billy felt the pull of warmth that came not only from the fire but from the camaraderie that enveloped them all. The laughter and stories mingled, creating a spirit of connection that made the inn feel like a home. The outside world lay waiting beyond the walls, yet within, they formed a little sanctuary, a refuge from the chaos that life sometimes offered. Eventually, the conversation turned to the lighthouse, a centerpiece of their coastal oasis. "Have you had a chance to go up?" Mrs. Hawthorne asked, her eyes alight with curiosity. It said that the view from the top is simply breathtaking. Billy nodded, a quiet smile forming. "I've had the pleasure of seeing it. There's something magical about standing there, with the sea stretching endlessly before you." His thoughts turned to Margaret, their shared evening at the lighthouse. "The beam of light knows no boundary. It guides those lost at sea." Margaret glanced at him, her expression softening. "I think it's a reminder that even in our solitude, we're not truly alone." As if on cue, the lanterns flickered, casting a brief shadow across the room. The laughter dimmed for a moment before the warmth returned, as though the very spirit of the lighthouse infused their gathering. While the other guests continued to share tales of their own adventures, Billy felt a growing sense of affection for Margaret. He observed her, her laughter blending with the light around her, her passion for life spilling out in every word. Each glance they shared felt charged with a promise, a thread connecting their stories. After some time, the laughter settled into quieter murmurs, the evening lingering in the air like a comfortable blanket. Billy's gaze wandered to the window, where the lighthouse beam circled over the waters, a guide through the night. The moon had begun to rise, casting a silver shimmer on the waves, reminding him of the mystery that lay beneath its surface. He felt a gentle tug to explore that world, to understand the secrets held within the depths. It was a longing he had known for years, a call from the sea that whispered of adventures yet to be experienced. "Do you ever wonder what lies beneath the waves?" He mused aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. Margaret turned to him, a curious sparkle in her eyes. All the time it's like an uncharted territory, waiting for someone to discover its treasures. Their conversation meandered back to the sea, the depths of their imaginations intertwining as they spoke of mythical creatures and lost ships, of explorers who had ventured into the unknown. The night seemed to stretch on, enriched by their shared dreams, the warmth of the inn a protective barrier against the chill outside. Eventually, the hour grew late, and one by one, the other guests began to take their leave, bidding each other good night with soft smiles and lingering glances. Willie and Margaret remained, the fire crackling softly in the background, their world reduced to the glowing embers of the hearth and the distant sound of the ocean. As the last of the guests departed, Willie turned to Margaret, his voice low. "It's easy to lose track of time here, isn't it?" "It is," she agreed, her gaze thoughtful. "There's a kind of enchantment in this place, isn't there? A feeling of belonging." Willie nodded, his heart swelling with a feeling of gratitude for the connections blossoming within the inn. "I've never felt it quite like this before," he confessed. Margaret's eyes sparkled with understanding. "Maybe it's the stories we share, they weave us together in ways we don't always recognize." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the warmth of the fire mingling with the closeness that lingered between them. Outside, the lighthouse beam continued its vigilant watch, illuminating the path for those at sea, a steady reminder of the possibilities that lay just beyond their door. "It's late," Margaret finally said, her voice gentle, breaking the stillness. "I should head to my room before the night pulls me too deep." "Of course," Billy replied, a twinge of reluctance in his voice. "But would you like to walk to the edge of the cliffs first? We could take in the view just for a moment." She looked at him, the moonlight dancing in her eyes, and smiled brightly. "I would love that." Billy rose and extended his hand. Margaret took it, and together they stepped outside, the cool night air wrapping around them like a soft veil. The stars twinkled above, painting the sky in hues of silver and dark blue, as the sound of waves crashing against the rocks filled the air. They walked side by side, the path ahead illuminated by the lighthouse beam, casting long shadows behind them. The sea was alive, surging against the cliffs with a rhythmic, steady pulse. Billy watched as the waves danced under the moonlight, feeling a connection to the vastness of the world. They reached the edge of the cliff, where the land dipped sharply toward the ocean below. The view was breathtaking, a panorama of dark water stretching into the horizon, lit just enough by the moon to reveal the undulating surface. Margaret leaned against the railing, her face illuminated by the night. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of the waves. "It is," Billy replied, the words barely escaping his lips as he took in the scene. He could sense the mystery swirling around them, the stories of the sea, the allure of what lay beneath the depths. "What do you think is out there?" Margaret pondered, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "Possibilities," Billy answered thoughtfully. "Endless journeys waiting to be taken." With a shared silence, they absorbed the majesty of the night, the cliff standing sentinel against the wildness of the sea. Each heartbeat echoed the age-old rhythm of the world, a soft reminder that they were both part of something larger. As they lingered on the edge, time seemed to stand still, each moment stretching into eternity, filled with unspoken words and shared dreams. Billy felt the pull of a deeper connection, a bond forged through stories and shared explorations, each glance between them speaking more than words ever could. Eventually, the chill of the night nudged them back from the cliffs. They turned to head back toward the inn, their footsteps quiet against the path. With the inn's light flickering in the distance, Billy felt the pull of home, a warmth that promised safety and familiarity. As they arrived at the door, Margaret turned to him, her expression earnest. "Thank you for tonight. Billy, I didn't realize how much I needed this." "Neither did I," he admitted, his heart touched by her sincerity. "It's been a night full of stories, and I'm grateful to share it with you." The door creaked open, and a rush of warm air welcomed them inside. The glow of the fire in the common room beckoned, but Billy felt a moment of hesitation, not wanting their conversation to end just yet. "Would you like to share one more story before the night is over?" he suggested, his voice steady. Margaret's eyes brightened, her smile a gentle beacon. "I would love to." They settled into the same chairs as before, the fire's glow wrapping around them like an old friend. Willie could feel the intimacy of the moment deepening as they exchanged tales, their voices blending together in the flickering light. For each story shared, a little more of the world unfolded, drawing them closer together in the warmth of their connection. Willie spoke of his childhood by the sea, of the way the tides had shaped his dreams, while Margaret revealed the inspirations that drove her to wonder. Hours slipped away unnoticed, the essence of the night binding them with its delicate threads. Outside, the lighthouse beam continued its watchful circle, and the sea's lullaby echoed softly, rooting their conversations in the eternal rhythm of life. Eventually, as the embers began to dim and the night grew tired, they found themselves in a companionable silence, their thoughts lingering in the soft glow of the fire. Margaret leaned back in her chair, her expression thoughtful. I believe every place we visit leaves a mark on us, weaving tales into our existence, she said quietly. Billy nodded, the truth of her words resonating within him. And sometimes those tales come alive through the people we meet. Margaret's gaze met his, and in that quiet moment, an understanding settled, a shared recognition that their paths had crossed for a reason, woven into the fabric of the universe. As the fire waned and the night deepened, Billy could no longer fight against the gentle tug of sleep. The warmth of the inn, the echo of the laughter shared, and the promise of the morning pressed upon him. I think I might need to find my way to bed, he murmured, the softness of the words wrapping around him. Margaret smiled, a soft, sleepy grin that warmed him thoroughly. Tomorrow holds the promise of more stories. With a final shared glance, Lee rose from his chair, feeling the weight of weariness settle in. The locket remained on the table, a silent guardian of the stories yet to come. As he made his way up the stairs, he carried with him the tranquility of the night, the warmth of Margaret's laughter, and the notion that the world was vast, yet somehow smaller than he had ever known. Upon reaching his room, he let the door close softly behind him, enveloping him in the peace of solitude. Willie sank into bed, the cool sheets contrasting the warmth still lingering from their shared moment. He closed his eyes, allowing the hush of the night to wrap around him like a gentle whisper. The mysteries of the lighthouse, the tales of the sea, and the bond with Margaret danced in his mind, threads woven into his consciousness. As sleep began to take him, he felt that whatever awaited him in the morrow, he would face it with an open heart, ready to embrace whatever stories might unfold. With each breath, the gentle rhythm of the ocean guided him deeper into sleep, the lighthouse beam still vigilant against the dark, illuminating the path ahead. And in that tranquil moment, Lee surrendered to the calm of the night, comforted by the knowledge that he was part of an ever-expanding story, living among those who shared the journey. Lee awoke to the soft glow of dawn filtering through the thin curtains of his room, the gentle light brushing against the walls like a tender caress. The sounds of the inn, a distant echo of the waves lapping at the shore, mixed with the soft creaks of the building itself as it settled into the day. He sat up slowly, the remnants of sleep still clinging to him, and rubbed his eyes as he let the last vestiges of dream slip away. The morning air felt crisp as he dressed, a refreshing contrast to the warmth of his blankets. He made his way to the common room, where the scent of freshly brewed coffee danced in the air, mingling with the faint traces of wood smoke. Billy's steps were light, a lingering sense of eagerness guiding him forward. As he entered the common area, he found Margaret already seated at one of the tables, a book spread open before her. The morning light illuminated her features, casting a soft halo around her that made the ordinary moment feel extraordinary. He could hardly contain his smile. "Good morning," he greeted softly, stepping further into the room. Margaret looked up, her eyes brightening with recognition. "Good morning. Lee, I thought I might get a bit of reading in before the day starts." She gestured to a steaming cup in front of her. "Would you like some coffee?" "Absolutely," he replied, pouring himself a cup from the pot on the sideboard. The rich aroma filled his senses, stirring a pleasant warmth within him. As he settled into the chair across from her, he found himself curious about the book she was reading. Black ink danced across the pages, and the title, obscured by the way she held it, intrigued him. "What are you reading?" he asked, taking a sip of the coffee which invigorated him against the cool air. "Ah, it's a collection of sea tale stories of ships and adventures, of love found and lost, she replied, closing the book slightly to hold it better. I thought it fitting for our little refuge by the sea. Willie nodded, feeling the stirrings of excitement within him. Sounds perfect. Perhaps we can relate some of those stories to our own lives. Margaret smiled knowingly, as though she appreciated the connection he was making. I would love that. I have a feeling today might be filled with stories. After a few quiet moments of sipping their coffee and enjoying the peace of the morning, Willie felt compelled to inquire about the locket again. About the locket from last night, I can't help but wonder about the woman in the portrait. Do you know anything more about her? Margaret's expression shifted to one of contemplation. I've had it for years, but the woman, she is somewhat of a mystery even to me. A friend once told me it belonged to someone important, perhaps even someone who inspired many tales herself, but I've never uncovered her identity. It's as though she carries her secrets with her. A small sigh escaped her, tinged with both intrigue and wistfulness. Willie leaned forward, captivated by the thread of mystery that seemed to weave itself through Margaret's life. Maybe today is the day for unraveling some of those secrets. Margaret's eyes sparkled with a mix of hope and curiosity. What do you propose? Perhaps we could start by exploring the nearby lighthouse, he suggested, recalling its commanding presence against the horizon. There might be stories hidden within its walls, waiting for someone to find them. Margaret's smile widened at the suggestion. I would love to. The lighthouse has always intrigued me, but I've never ventured close. With a plan set in motion, they finished their coffee, and the day unfurled gently around them. The inn was bathed in soft light, its walls alive with the sounds of a new morning. Guests chatted in low tones, adding to the symphony of muted laughter and clinking dishes. As they prepared to leave, Willie felt a delightful anticipation bubbling within. The invitation of adventure beckoned, promising stories yet untold and secrets waiting to be unveiled. Together, they stepped out of the inn's warm embrace into the refreshing morning air. The path to the lighthouse wound along the coast, bordered by wildflowers swaying gently in the breeze. Willie and Margaret walked side by side, exchanging glimpses and smiles, their conversation slipping into deeper territories. They shared stories of their childhoods, each tale colored with laughter and a few traces of seriousness. Willie spoke of his small, landlocked town where the ocean was merely a dream, a distant echo of the adventurous spirits that lived within him. Margaret countered with stories of her own upbringing by the sea, where the waves whispered secrets and the storm sang songs of resilience. As the lighthouse came into view, its tall, white brick structure gleamed against the blue sky, standing proud and unyielding. The landscape shifted as they approached, with the salty scent of the ocean now more pronounced, the sound of the water crashing against the rocks beneath them growing louder. They reached the entrance, a heavy wooden door slightly ajar, inviting them in with a creaking welcome. Inside, the air felt still yet charged, the walls lined with memories of those who had once guided ships home. Dust motes danced in the air, illuminated by beams of light filtering through the narrow windows. Willie took the lead, pushing the door wide and stepping into the cool interior. I wonder what tales this place holds, he mused aloud. Margaret followed closely, her eyes scanning the walls adorned with faded photographs and nautical charts. Perhaps we might find a journal or some relic that belonged to the keeper, she suggested, her voice soft and filled with awe. As they explored, each room revealed small treasures, sea-worn artifacts, weather gear, and the lingering scent of salt and history. Willie's heart raced at the thought of uncovering a connection to the past, a feeling of belonging that echoed through time. In a small alcove, he spotted a dusty chest nestled beneath the table. With careful hands, he opened it, revealing old logbooks that recorded the lighthouse's history, tales of storms weathered and ships guided to safety. Look at these, he exclaimed, handing a faded book to Margaret. They are filled with stories, lived and breathed by those who watched over the sea. Margaret's eyes sparkled as she studied the pages. Each entry was a glimpse into another world, filled with the weight of experiences and the warmth of those who cherish the lighthouse as their home. The words leaped from the pages, each one a vessel carrying the essence of love, loss, and hope. As they delved deeper into the past, The hours slipped away like the tide. Lee found himself captivated by Margaret's insights, her interpretations adding layers to the stories they unearthed. They laughed together, shared thoughtful silences, and at times felt the gravity of the tales tugging at their hearts. But as the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting a gentle orange hue across the landscape, a feeling of urgency sparked in Ellie's mind. We should head back soon, he suggested reluctantly, not wanting the day to dissolve into night, but also where the evening was approaching. Margaret nodded, though her eyes lingered on a particularly captivating entry in one of the logbooks. Just a moment more, Billy agreed, feeling the pull of their discovery, their connection growing stronger with each shared word. With the sun setting, they finally closed the books and wandered back through the lighthouse, the quietude settling around them like a soft blanket. Stepping outside, they were greeted by the golden light washing over the water, the horizon melting into hues of pink and purple. It's beautiful, Margaret breathed, her eyes wide as they took in the view. Yes, it is, Lee replied, feeling the warmth of the setting sun against his skin, the sound of the waves crashing below resonating in harmony with their shared tales. As they walked back to the inn, the day slipped quietly into dusk. The coastal breeze carried with it the promise of more stories, their hearts alight with the mysteries they had uncovered. Once inside the inn, they found the common room buzzing with the gentle laughter of the remaining guests. Lee and Margaret took their seats at the same table they'd inhabited in the morning, the remains of dinner spread across it, and touched plates left as markers of time. Are you hungry? Margaret asked, eyeing the food with a hint of desire. Starved, Lee admitted, glancing at the enticing spread. The innkeeper, a cheerful woman with a warm smile, approached them. Welcome back. I saved some of today's catch just for you two. She served them heaping portions of grilled fish, roasted potatoes, and fresh vegetables, the aroma filling the air with a feeling of comfort reminiscent of home. As they ate, their conversation flowed seamlessly. The remnants of their discoveries at the lighthouse sparkled in the glow of the room. Each bite tasted like a celebration of their day, filled with the joyful realization that they had forged a connection both in their hearts and through the stories they shared. The evening stretched on, the warmth of the inn wrapping around them like a cherished memory. They laughed and spoke about everything from the enticing mysteries of the sea to their dreams for the future. But soon, the weight of a long day settled in, and he felt a contented fatigue blanket him. He glanced at Margaret, who was still animatedly discussing something. Her passion was radiant. Yet, he noticed how her eyes flickered with traces of weariness as well. Perhaps we should call it a night, he suggested gently after a pause, his words encircling the table like a soft caress. Margaret nodded, her smile turning sleepy but still bright. Yes, tomorrow holds more adventures, doesn't it? As they finished their meal, Willie felt a feeling of hope swelling within him. The stories they had shared, the laughter that had wrapped around them, all pointed toward a future filled with possibility. As they parted for the night, Willie made his way back to his room, the echoes of the day trailing behind him like shadows at dusk. The lighthouse still stood tall against the night sky, its beam slicing through the darkness, a guiding light that he was becoming more connected to. He lay in bed, the gentle sound of the waves continuing their timeless song, and the warmth of the evening lingered in his thoughts. The secrets of the locket, the tales of the lighthouse, the bond he was forming with Margaret, all drifted through his mind like fragments of a dream. He welcomed each piece, inviting the mysteries and stories to intertwine within him. As sleep began to wash over him, Lee felt the comfort of knowing that tomorrow would bring more adventures, and perhaps unveil deeper tales waiting in the corners of the world they both inhabited. He surrendered to rest, cradled by the knowledge that the journey was just beginning, entwined with others who dared to explore the unknown. Lee awoke, the faint light of the day spilling softly through the small window of his room. The air was crisp, mingling with the salty scent that drifted in from the ocean below. He stretched beneath the cozy blanket, taking a moment to revel in the warmth before rising. The memories of the previous evening flickered like gentle embers in his mind, Margaret's laughter still echoing in the corners of his thoughts. He dressed slowly, the routines of the day unfolding like the tides outside. Billy paused before the small mirror, his reflection revealing the light of possibility shining in his eyes. Today was yet another chance for exploration, for connection, and he felt a thrill at the thought. Descending the warm wooden stairs, he was greeted by the inviting aroma of freshly brewed coffee blending with the scent of baked bread. The common room was already alive, the hearth crackling softly as light spilled across the rustic furnishings. The innkeeper was busy at the countertop, arranging a fresh basket of pastries, her cheeks flushed with warmth. "Good morning, Billy," she called cheerfully, glancing up with a smile that brightened the room. "I hope you're hungry. I made extra today." "Good morning," he replied, a smile spreading across his face. I could smell it all the way up. He settled into one of the soft chairs by the window, feeling the warmth of the sun begin to envelop him. A plate piled high with pastries and a steaming cup of coffee was placed before him, and he wasted no time in savoring the delights before him. Each bite was a small celebration, the flavors rich and comforting, a perfect accompaniment to the gentle sounds of the waves crashing against the shore. As he enjoyed his breakfast, he noticed Margaret entering the common room, her hair glinting like spun gold in the morning light. She wore a light blue dress that danced around her as she walked, the fabric swaying gently in time with her steps. Billy felt a flutter in his chest at the sight of her, a warmth spreading through him, brightening the day ahead. "Morning," she greeted, her voice bright and melodic as it mingled with the sounds of the inn. "I hope there's still a bit for me." "Plenty," he assured her, gesturing to the table. "You'll have to join me." She settled across from him, her eyes sparkling with energy as she filled her plate. Conversation flowed easily between them, topics ranging from the inn's rustic charm to their plans for the day. Each shared laugh and earnest glance deepened the connection sparking between them, creating a space where dreams could unfold freely. "I saw the lighthouse early this morning," she said, her voice lowering slightly as though sharing a secret. "It looked magnificent in the dawn light, standing so steadfast against the sea." Billy nodded thoughtfully, feeling the pull of the lighthouse once more. "We could visit it today." He suggested maybe explore the area around it, see if there's anything more we can uncover about the locket. Margaret's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. "Yes, let's do that. I want to see if we can find anything about the woman in the picture." Her curiosity mirrored his own, and together they plotted their adventure over breakfast, envisioning the paths they would take and the stories they hoped to uncover. After finishing their meal, the two gathered their belongings and stepped outside into the cool morning air. The coastal inn sat like a tranquil sentinel against the backdrop of the endless ocean, the horizon stretching far beyond what the eye could see. With the lighthouse as their focal point, they felt the magnetic pull that had drawn them together, both as explorers and as companions in the quest for knowledge. Their footsteps carried them along the winding path toward the lighthouse, the crunch of gravel beneath them echoing in the serene silence. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a warm glow on everything it touched, and he found himself stealing glances at Margaret, her laughter and easy smile igniting a joyful spark within him. As they reached the base of the lighthouse, its towering structure loomed majestically above them, and he found a feeling of awe mingling with the thrill of exploration. He brushed his fingers along the rough stone, tracing the weathered markings and imagining the countless tales the lighthouse could tell. Margaret joined him, her fingertips running across the stones, too, both of them sharing a moment of connection with the past. "We should climb to the top," Lee suggested, an adventurous glimmer in his eyes. He wanted to feel the wind against his face, to see the world from that high vantage point. Margaret nodded eagerly, determination brightening her expression. "Let's do it." The spiral staircase wound upward, each step echoing in the confined space as they ascended slowly, breathless with anticipation. They paused occasionally to admire the view through the narrow windows, the waves crashing against the jagged rocks far below, the sea glimmering like 1,000 diamonds in the sunlight. Finally, they reached the top, and as he stepped out onto the weather deck, he was greeted by a breathtaking panorama. The ocean stretched endlessly, the horizon a beautiful blend of blues and greens, an artist's perfect palette. The wind tousled his hair, and he reveled in the exhilaration of being so close to the sky. Margaret stepped out beside him, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's incredible," she breathed, taking in the vastness before them. Willie turned slightly, catching her gaze, feeling the moment deepen between them. "Just like our adventures," he said softly, "endless and full of possibility." As they shared the quiet, the world around them faded into the background, leaving only the beauty of the moment. Willie found himself captivated not just by the view, but by the shared silence, the understanding that they were together amid so much grandeur. After some time, they turned their attention back to the lighthouse itself, examining the familiar details they both noticed. Their hands moved instinctively, brushing against the old lantern that hung from the ceiling, the glass worn yet still glimmering. "What if we could shine a light back on the secrets it holds?" Margaret mused, her voice a blend of curiosity and imagination. "Like a treasure hunt," Willie replied, the thrill of shared adventure dancing in his chest. "We could explore the old maps in town, maybe find out where the locket came from." Margaret's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Yes, let's uncover the past." Filled with a renewed sense of purpose, they made their way back down the spiral staircase, the descent swift and light-hearted. Each step fueled their excitement for what lay ahead, the treasure hunt igniting creative sparks between them. Once outside, they began to wander along the path leading back to the inn, weaving through the tall grasses and wildflowers that danced to the rhythm of the sea breeze. Conversation flowed freely, mingling with the sounds of nature, and they reveled in one another's company, the shared silences as comforting as the words that flowed. As they approached the inn, Margaret suddenly stopped, her gaze fixed on a small group of weathered bushes nearby. "Look!" she exclaimed, pointing toward a cluster of stones jutting out from beneath the brush. "What do you think that is?" Curiosity piqued. Lee joined her, parting the branches gently to reveal a crumbling stone marker half buried in earth and wildflowers. The engraving was faded, but letters remained visible, hinting at a name and date, a piece of history that had traveled through time, waiting to be rediscovered. Could this be linked to something we're looking for? Billy wondered aloud, excitement bubbling beneath the surface. Margaret knelt beside the stone, brushing away the dirt with her fingers. "Maybe it's a clue," she said, her voice breathless with the possibilities. "If we can find out who this belonged to, it could lead us to the locket's owner." Billy felt a surge of enthusiasm at the thought. "Let's make a note of it, see if we can track down any records in town." With the promise of another mystery to unveil, they continued their journey back to the inn, both of them buzzing with the thrill of discovery. The warm afternoon sunlight cast a golden hue over their path, illuminating their shared excitement as they prepared to delve deeper into their treasure hunt. As they arrived back at the inn, the atmosphere felt different. The midday sun bathed the common room in a golden embrace, and the innkeeper greeted them with a soft smile, her hands busy arranging flowers in a vase. "Back already? I thought you might uncover some secrets up at the lighthouse," she said, her brow raising in curiosity. "We did," Billy replied, sharing the delightful news of their find beneath the bushes. "There's a stone that could lead us to something important." "Oh, how fascinating," she replied, her eyes glimmering with interest. "There's a wealth of history here, often overlooked. I would love to hear what you find." Margaret and Ellie glanced at each other, both feeling the warmth of connection not only through their own shared adventure, but also with the innkeeper, who seemed to understand the treasure hunt's significance. They decided to spend the afternoon searching through the town's archives, a small room in the local library filled with dusty books, maps, and old records. With each page they turned, Billy felt a deeper bond forming between him and Margaret, fueled by the excitement of exploration and discovery. As the afternoon wore on, they lost track of time, poring over documents, each finding another piece of the puzzle. They discovered names connected to the lighthouse, stories of shipwrecks and forgotten loves, and each revelation sparked their imaginations further. Billy took a moment to step outside, needing a breath of fresh air. The day had turned to a gentle shade of golden orange, the horizon softening as the sun began its descent. He leaned against the wall, gazing at the bay, the rippling waters reflecting the hues of the sky. Margaret joined him a moment later, her presence both calming and invigorating. "Just look at that," she said, her voice low, filled with wonder. "It's beautiful." "Yes," Lee agreed, appreciating the quiet moment they shared. The world felt expansive and full of promise, the mysteries of the sea and the lighthouse intertwined with their growing connection. "Do you think we'll uncover everything?" Margaret asked softly, her expression changing to one of contemplation. "All the answers hidden within the stories?" "I believe we'll uncover the pieces we need to find," he replied, smiling gently. "It's all about the journey, isn't it? The connections we make, the stories we share." She nodded, a thoughtful expression drifting across her face. "And the things we might learn about ourselves." With the sun beginning to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the library courtyard, they returned to their search, diving deeper into records that felt alive with history. The skeletal framework of stories began weaving in and out, spiraling around their minds, drawing them further into the depths of the past. By the time dusk settled in, the golden glow of the day faded into soft blues and purples. Lee and Margaret emerged from the library, tired yet exhilarated, clutching a stack of notes, their hearts racing with anticipation. "We should head back," Lee said, the night beginning to blanket the world around them. The lighthouse stood tall, its beams spinning above them, a guiding light in the encroaching darkness. "Yes," Margaret agreed, her voice low with a feeling of wonder. "Tomorrow, we can delve deeper. I feel like we're on the cusp of something truly remarkable." As they walked back toward the inn, the stars began to sprinkle the sky, twinkling like distant memories, each holding a story of its own. The sea murmured softly, the waves wrapping around the shore like secrets waiting to be discovered. Inside, the warm glow of the inn welcomed them once more. The innkeeper was tidying up, casting a glance their way as they entered. "Did you find what you were looking for?" she asked, her tone curious and inviting. "More than we expected," Billy replied, excitement bubbling just beneath the surface. He felt as though he were on the brink of unraveling something significant, a connection to the past that would deepen their understanding of the present. An intimate space enveloped them as they settled in for the evening, the crackling fire drawing warmth and comfort around their shoulders. They recounted their discoveries, laughter mingling with the tales of love and loss, shipwrecks and mysteries, weaving a rich narrative that filled the room with a warmth that felt familiar. The inn quieted as the night deepened, the other guests drifting into slumber, the murmur of conversations fading into soft whispers. He leaned back in his chair, listening to Margaret's voice rise and fall as she animatedly shared a particularly fascinating tale. The light of the fire danced upon her features, illuminating her enthusiasm and the spark in her eyes. Soon, however, fatigue began to creep into their bones, the warmth of the inn embracing them like a gentle lullaby. Lee glanced at the clock, noting the late hour. "Maybe we should think about getting some rest," he murmured. Margaret nodded reluctantly, her smile lingering as she concluded her story. "Tomorrow will bring even more discoveries," she promised, her voice soft and hopeful. As they bid each other good night and retreated to their separate rooms, Lee's heart felt full, the thrill of the day mingling with the anticipation of what lay ahead. He lay in bed, the soft sound of the waves whispering outside his window, and closed his eyes, letting the night envelop him in its quiet embrace. The mysteries of the lighthouse and the tales of the past swirled in his mind, stepping closer and closer to clarity, drawing him into a world that felt rich with promise. The day had drawn to a close, but in that stillness, Lee felt confident that the journey was just beginning, unfurling like the tides against the shore. The evening settled around him, and with a heart full of adventure, he surrendered to the sweet embrace of sleep. Morning light spilled through the thin curtains of Lily's room, gently nudging him from the sweet depths of slumber. A soft breeze lifted the edges of the fabric, carrying with it the fresh scent of the sea mingled with the aroma of warm bread and coffee, hinting at the bustling kitchen below. Lee blinked slowly, the remnants of dreams still clinging to him as he stretched and listened to the world awakening around him. With each movement, he felt the thrill of possibility wash over him, urging him to rise. He swung his legs over the side of the bed and planted his feet on the cool floor, relishing the brisk touch. Outside, the waves continued their rhythmic dance against the shore, a familiar music that beckoned him closer. After a brief wash and dressing, Billy made his way down the creaky wooden staircase, each step echoing with the promise of a new adventure. Upon entering the common room, he found Margaret already seated at a corner table, sunlight streaming in through the window, illuminating her features in golden hues. She was poring over a worn leather book, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Good morning," Billy greeted, a smile brightening his face as he approached her. Margaret looked up, her expression shifting from deep concentration to delight. "Good morning, Billy. I was just reading about the shipwrecks along this coast. You wouldn't believe some of the tales." "Shipwrecks?" Billy asked, drawing in a seat across from her. "Tell me more." She eagerly shared snippets of the stories, her voice carrying the weight of the past as she spoke of sailors and storms, treasures lost to the sea, and lives changed forever. Billy listened intently, drawn into the world she painted with her words. Each account deepened his fascination for the place they were in, filling him with questions and a growing desire to learn more. Their leisurely breakfast was filled with conversation and laughter. The innkeeper, moving around them, occasionally chimed in with her own stories of the inn's history, weaving a feeling of community into their gathering. Billy felt enveloped in warmth, the atmosphere rich with shared experiences and connections forming like the threads of a well-worn tapestry. As the morning wore on, Billy found an opportune moment to bring up the locket. "I've been thinking about that locket," he said, his curiosity bubbling to the surface. "The one we found yesterday, I wonder who she was." Margaret's eyes lit up. "I was hoping you mentioned that. I think we should try to find out more. Perhaps the innkeeper has some information, or we could visit the local library." "Having a plan sounds wonderful," Billy replied, his heart quickening at the thought of delving deeper into the mystery. The locket had become more than just a trinket. It was a doorway to stories waiting to be uncovered. With breakfast concluded and feeling refreshed, they decided to seek out the innkeeper. She was checking on a few guests, busy but approachable, her demeanor always warm and inviting. When Ellie and Margaret approached her, she paused and wiped her hands on her apron. "We're curious about the locket we found in the attic," Billy said, his excitement palpable. "Do you know anything about it or the woman in the portrait?" The innkeeper's expression shifted slightly, as though the mention of the locket stirred something within her. "Ah, that old thing," she began, her voice carrying a hint of nostalgia. "That belonged to a woman named Eliza. She lived in town many years ago. A lovely soul, filled with dreams of the sea. Do you know what happened to her?" Margaret inquired, leaning in closer, the glimmer of mystery igniting her interest even more. "She was known for her beauty and kindness," the innkeeper continued, a wistful smile on her lips. "But there was also much sadness in her life. She was engaged to a sailor who never returned from a voyage. It is said she waited for him at the lighthouse, gazing out at the waves, hoping he would come back." "That's heartbreaking," Lee murmured, feeling the weight of the story settle in the air around them. "They say she left behind a collection of letters and poems, her heart poured into words," the innkeeper added. "Some say they can still be found in the lighthouse, hidden away, waiting to be discovered." Lee exchanged glances with Margaret, their minds racing with the implications of this new information. "Could we look for them?" he asked, excitement threading through his voice. "Of course," the innkeeper said with a nod. "Just be careful. The lighthouse is an old building, and not everyone believes its stories should be disturbed." "Thank you," Margaret replied, determination shining in her eyes. Billy felt a feeling of camaraderie with her, both of them energized by the path before them. With a plan forming and the mysteries of Eliza's story swirling in their minds, they made their way out of the inn and toward the lighthouse, the worn path leading them through a landscape rich with the smells of brine and wildflowers. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a golden glow that enveloped them in warmth. As they approached the lighthouse, Lee marveled at its stature. The whitewashed walls stood tall against the blue sky, the red roof a vibrant contrast. The door creaked slightly as they pushed it open, revealing the interior dimly lit by narrow windows. Inside, dust motes danced lazily in the sunbeams filtering through the panes, giving the space an ethereal feel. The air was filled with the faint scent of salt and aged wood. Willie felt a rush of excitement, as though he were crossing a threshold into another time. "Where do you think we should start?" Margaret asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as though they were intruding upon something sacred. "Maybe the top?" Willie suggested, glancing toward the spiraled staircase that went upward, its steps worn smooth from countless feet. They began their ascent, the sound of each step echoing in the stillness. As they climbed, the light shifted, casting elongated shadows that stretched behind them, adding an element of mystery to their expedition. Upon reaching the top, they found themselves in the lantern room, where the view of the coast spread out before them in breathtaking glory. Billy stood at the window, captivated by the sight of the sea shimmering in the sunlight. It felt like standing at the edge of the world. "It's beautiful," he breathed, taking in the vastness, a reminder of the stories waiting to be uncovered beyond the horizon. Margaret joined him, resting her arms on the railing and peering out. "It must have been a perfect spot for Eliza to wait," she mused, her voice softening. "I can almost feel her presence here." Billy nodded, intrigued by the connection they were beginning to cultivate with Eliza's past. "Let's look for her letters," he suggested, turning back to the room to explore. They rummaged through the drawers and cabinets, marveling at the items long forgotten, remnants of lives that had intersected with the lighthouse. Old charts lay scattered under dust, and a collection of shells collected from the shore sparkled with memories of the ocean. Hours passed as they searched, their excitement not waning as each new discovery drew them deeper into the narrative of Eliza's life. But as they explored the wooden shelves, time slipped away from them, and the sun began its gradual descent, casting a warm amber glow across the room. "Look here," Margaret exclaimed, her voice a mixture of excitement and disbelief. She held up a small, weathered box adorned with delicate carvings of waves and stars. Billy hurried over, his heart racing at the sight. "What do you think is inside?" With gentle hands, Margaret opened the box, revealing a collection of letters tied together with a frayed ribbon. Each envelope was marked with elegant handwriting, the edges worn and yellowed with age. "Could these be Eliza's?" Billy asked, a thrill of anticipation coursing through him. He felt a certain reverence as they held the fragile pieces of her story. "Let's read one," Margaret suggested, her eyes sparkling with the promise of discovery. They took a seat on a weathered wooden bench near the window, sunlight streaming down onto the letters as they carefully untied the ribbon. As Margaret unfolded the first letter, the scent of aged paper mingled with the salty air, transporting them back to a time when love, longing, and hope flowed from pen to paper. Margaret began to read aloud, her voice soft and melodic as she brought Eliza's words to life. The letter spoke of dreams and promises, of love that spanned the distance of the ocean. With each line, Lee felt a deeper connection to the woman who had poured her heart onto the pages, the untold stories surrounding them weaving a bridge that spanned generations. They lost track of time as the sun dipped lower in the sky, bathing the room in shades of gold and crimson. Eliza's emotions danced between them, binding their hearts in shared understanding. Each letter opened a window to her soul, revealing the strength it took to hold on to hope, even amidst despair. As dusk fell, they gathered the letters back into the box, their hearts full yet tethered to a bittersweet longing. "How can we finish Eliza's story?" Billy pondered aloud, glancing outside where the first stars twinkled in the indigo sky. Margaret looked thoughtful, the fading light casting soft shadows across her face. "Perhaps we can find more about her life in town, or even in more letters. I want to know what happened to her." "Me too," Billy agreed, feeling a feeling of purpose ignite within him. The quest for understanding now felt like a calling. "It's getting late," Margaret noted, her voice trailing off as she caught a glimpse of the horizon. "We should head back before it gets too dark." They descended the staircase slowly, the weight of Eliza's story lingering with them, an echo of the past guiding their steps. Once outside, The cool evening air enveloped them, the soft sound of waves rolling onto the shore almost like a promise of more tales to come. With each step back toward the inn, Lee and Margaret shared their thoughts on Eliza, weaving ideas and curiosities as the stars started to blanket the sky. They didn't notice the shadows growing around them, nor did they mind the chill in the air. Their minds were alight with the mystery they had begun to unravel. Upon returning to the inn, the comforting warmth of the common room drew them in. The innkeeper was busy tidying up, and as she noticed their arrival, a smile broke on her face, welcoming them back. "Did you find what you were looking for?" she asked, her voice gentle yet curious. "More than we expected," Lee replied, feeling the weight of excitement in his chest as he glanced at Margaret, who wore a similar glow of anticipation. The innkeeper raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "I can see it in your eyes. What have you discovered?" Margaret excitedly began recounting their findings, the letters and history of Eliza spilling from her lips as Lee joined in, the thrill of sharing their adventure bubbling between them. The warmth of the common room wrapped around them like a comforting blanket as they spoke, the sound of laughter and conversation melding with the crackling of the fire, a soothing backdrop to their evening. As the night deepened, Lee felt grateful, the connections forged that day surrounding him, buoying him with a feeling of belonging and purpose. Each word exchanged, each discovery made, wove together like the strands of the story that he was eager to continue. Later, as they parted ways for the night, Lee returned to his room, a heart full of wonder and anticipation for the days to come. He placed the letters carefully on the bedside table, a promise of more exploration, the journey ahead shimmering like the stars that guided his dreams. As he lay down, the sounds of the night wrapped around him gently, the distant call of the sea lulling him into a peaceful sleep. The lighthouse stood steadfast outside, a silent guardian of Eliza's story, encircled with the promise of more mysteries waiting to be unveiled. Billy surrendered to the night, knowing that tomorrow would hold new discoveries and heartfelt connections, continuing the beautiful thread of stories that intertwined their lives. As Lily and Margaret stepped out of the lighthouse, the rich hues of dusk painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, casting a warm glow over the landscape. The waves lapped rhythmically at the shore, a soothing melody to accompany their thoughts. Lee held the small, weathered box tightly under his arm, marveling at how the simple act of uncovering Eliza's letters had transformed their day into an adventure filled with discovery and emotion. Margaret closed her eyes for a moment, letting the air fill her lungs. "It feels as though we've stepped into her life, doesn't it?" she said, her voice a soft murmur above the sounds of the sea. Each letter a heartbeat, a moment captured in time. Lee nodded, the weight of the box a tangible reminder of the stories they had unearthed. "I can't wait to learn more about her, to understand what she felt," he replied, glancing toward Margaret. "It's like she's reaching out to us across the years." The path back to the inn wound through fields dotted with wildflowers, their colors muted in the fading light. Lee and Margaret walked side by side, occasionally sharing thoughts and insights about Eliza's letters, how they painted portraits of love and loss, dreams and regrets. The connection to a woman they'd never known felt intimate and profound, as though Eliza's spirit lingered just beyond the horizon, guiding them on. As they approached the inn, the warm light spilling from its windows welcomed them home. Lily felt a surge of gratitude for the place that had become their temporary refuge, its walls filled with stories waiting to be discovered. They opened the door, and the familiar scent of baked bread wrapped around them, mingling with the salty air that followed them in. The innkeeper looked up from the small kitchen area, a friendly smile gracing her face. "Ah, back already. Did you find more treasure?" she asked, her hands dusted with flour, her apron a testament to her work in the kitchen. Billy exchanged a glance with Margaret before responding. "We found Eliza's letters," he said, his voice nearly a whisper, reverence threading through his words. The innkeeper's eyes widened with interest. "Oh, dear Eliza," she said softly, her expression shifting to reflect the weight of the name. "She poured her heart into those letters, and they hold so much of her story. What have you discovered?" "We've only started to scratch the surface," Margaret interjected, her excitement palpable. "There are mentions of a love far away, and dreams of adventure." It feels like we're just beginning to understand her." The innkeeper nodded, her understanding deepening. Liza was a remarkable woman. The sea was her constant companion, and she often found beauty in the storms as much as in the calm. "If you're interested in learning more, I might have something in the attic that could shine more light on her past." Lily's curiosity piqued at the mention of further pieces to Eliza's story. "Yes, please. We'd love to see anything you can share," he replied eagerly. The innkeeper motioned for them to follow her, leading them up the narrow staircase to the attic. With each step, the atmosphere changed. The air held a faint mustiness, filled with memories suspended in time. Dust motes danced in the shafts of light that streamed through a small window, illuminating a space filled with forgotten objects, a collection of trunks, old furniture, and a jumble of items that seemed to speak of lives once lived. "Please take a look around," she said, gesturing to the scattered belongings. "I'll see if I can find what I have on Eliza." Lee and Margaret began to sift through the attic, their eyes scanning the items with growing fascination. Margaret opened a trunk that, upon inspection, revealed a treasure trove of old photographs and pieces of fabric, remnants of clothing fashioned in styles long past. Lee found a small wooden box, its hinges rusted with age. He carefully lifted the lid, revealing a collection of delicate sea glass, each piece reflecting the last rays of twilight in myriad colors. "Look at this," he called softly to Margaret, holding up a piece of sea glass that shimmered like the memories of the ocean it had once been a part of. "It's beautiful." Margaret walked over, her eyes lighting up at the sight. "It's like pieces of the ocean captured in time," she remarked, gently touching the smooth edges of the glass. The attic was a world unto itself, filled with echoes of the past, and Ellie could feel that they were on the verge of unveiling more of Eliza's life. At that moment, the innkeeper returned, a bundle of papers in hand, each tied with a faded ribbon. "I found these old letters from Eliza's family, along with a few records from the town," she said, placing them carefully on a nearby trunk. "They might help you understand her a bit better." Lee and Margaret moved closer, the light from the attic window illuminating the ribbons and the delicate handwriting that adorned the papers. They began to read, their hearts racing as they absorbed the words. The letters spoke of Eliza's dreams, her longing for the sea, and glimpses of the life she had imagined. Lee traced the curves of the letters with his finger, feeling an almost tangible connection to Eliza. Each word seemed to resonate, bridging the years between them. "She wrote about wanting to explore beyond the horizon," he murmured, "to see what lay waiting for her out there." "As if the sea held not just waves, but also answers to her heart," Margaret mused, her voice barely above a whisper. They spent what felt like hours in the attic, lost in the past, piecing together a story that reached across time, their shared fascination knitting them closer together. As the last traces of daylight faded beyond the horizon, a cool breeze drifted through the attic, filling the space with the scent of salt and earth. Willie glanced at Margaret, her face lit by the soft glow of a single lantern flickering on a nearby shelf. In that moment, amidst the dusty remnants of a life once lived, Willie felt a warmth stir within him, a deepening connection to not just Eliza's spirit, but to Margaret as well. "We should head back downstairs," he suggested gently, realizing how much time had slipped away. "We can look through these more closely over breakfast tomorrow." Margaret nodded, her eyes reflecting the lantern's flicker. "Yes, I'd like to share them with the innkeeper too. She may have more insights about Eliza's family." Descending the staircase, the melancholy beauty of Eliza's story lingered in their minds, a comforting wrap around their hearts. Back in the common room, they settled down with the innkeeper, who listened with rapt attention as they shared their discoveries. "Oh, Eliza," the innkeeper said, shaking her head with a knowing smile. She was always searching for something beyond what lay in front of her. "The sea called to her in ways I can hardly express. You honor her memory by uncovering her story." Lily felt a feeling of purpose blossom within him. They were not merely retracing the steps of a long-lost woman. They were continuing a narrative, one that had been woven into the very fabric of the town and the sea surrounding them. As night deepened, they shared stories, laughter, and the simple joys of companionship. the inn's warmth shielding them from the cool air outside. The flickering lantern cast soft shadows that danced across the walls, filling the space with a feeling of comfort and safety. The ocean hummed a gentle lullaby outside, a reminder of Eliza's dreams and the adventure still waiting to unfold. Eventually, they said their goodnights, promising to rendezvous again at dawn to dive deeper into Eliza's story. Billy retired to his room, the box of letters and papers resting by his bedside. He thought of Eliza, of all the dreams she had held, and the courage it took to pursue them. Each letter contained a piece of her heart, and Billy found himself wanting nothing more than to honor that heart through his own journey. As he lay in bed, surrounded by the sounds of the sea, he felt a feeling of tranquility settle over him. Sleep began to beckon, and with it, the promise of tomorrow's adventures. In his dreams, he wandered alongside Eliza, exploring the horizon where the sea met the sky, each wave whispering secrets of lives intertwined and stories yet to be told. The lighthouse stood steadfast outside, a beacon illuminating not just the coastline, but also the paths yet to be discovered in the intricate tapestry of Eliza's life. Billy closed his eyes, ready to embrace whatever awaited him as the night deepened, knowing that the next chapter of their shared journey was just a heartbeat away. Billy awoke to the soft glow of morning peeking around the edges of the draped curtains. The steady rhythm of the waves outside had shifted to a gentler swell, as though the sea were drawing in a deep breath just before exhaling the day. As he gathered himself, he could hear the faint sounds of footsteps below, the inn stirring to life. He slipped out of bed, the cool floorboard sending a shiver up his spine, and pulled on his clothes. The box of letters still rested by his bedside, a promise of stories yet untold. With a quiet resolve, he picked it up and cradled it against his side, feeling its weight and significance. Stepping out of his room, he made his way down the staircase, the familiar creaking wood a soundtrack to his anticipation. In the common room, the innkeeper was busy setting a wooden table adorned with mismatched plates and steaming pots of tea and coffee. The enticing aromas of baked goods wafted through the air, adding warmth to the morning chill. "Good morning, Billy," she greeted him with a smile, her hands dusted with flour. "Ready for a hearty breakfast?" "Absolutely," Billy replied, taking a seat at the table. The warmth radiating from the hearth enveloped him, chasing away the lingering traces of sleep. Moments later, Margaret appeared, her hair tousled but her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Did you sleep well?" she asked, sliding into the chair opposite Billy. "Very well, thank you. I kept thinking about what we might find in Eliza's letters today," he said, his heart racing at the thought. "Me too," Margaret replied, her fingers tapping lightly on the wooden table. "I feel like we're on the verge of something special." The innkeeper served breakfast, placing plates overflowing with fresh bread, butter, and preserves in front of them. As they ate, they shared their thoughts about Eliza, piecing together her life like fragments of a beautiful mosaic. The innkeeper listened, occasionally chiming in with memories of the long-ago girl who had left a lasting impression on the town. "I remember Eliza would often come in here with her sketchbook," the innkeeper reminisced, her voice softening. "She found beauty in everything, from the rugged cliffs to the quiet corners of this inn. She had a talent, capturing the world around her." Billy leaned in, interested. "Do you think we could find any of her sketches?" The innkeeper nodded slowly. "There might be a few tucked away in the attic. I'll check after breakfast. It would be wonderful for you both to see her work." Their hearts swelled with excitement. After breakfast, the trio made their way to the attic, the air growing cooler as they climbed the narrow, winding staircase. Dust motes danced in the beams of light filtering through small windows. The attic smelled of old wood and forgotten memories, a sacred space holding whispers of the past. Willie felt an energy in the room as they searched through boxes, each one filled with trinkets and pieces of history that spoke of a life well lived. Finally, Margaret gasped, revealing a flat box beneath a pile of linens. With careful hands, she opened it to reveal Eliza's sketches, the delicate lines still vibrant, breathing life into the pages despite the passage of time. "Look at this," Margaret said, holding up a drawing of the very lighthouse that watched over the inn. It's remarkable. Billy leaned closer, observing the way Eliza had captured the lighthouse's stoic presence against the tumultuous sea, the strokes weaving a narrative of resilience. It struck him how much of her heart had gone into these pieces, just as much as her letters. I can see why the sea called to her, Billy murmured. She found beauty in all of it. The innkeeper stood by, her eyes glistening. Eliza was a dreamer, but she was also a realist, she reflected. She understood that life could be rocky, but she always found a way to balance the light and the dark. As they continued to explore the box, they uncovered more sketch scenes of the inn, the bustling harbor, and even a self-portrait with a playful smile that seemed to transcend time. Each drawing told its own story, adding texture to the narrative Lily and Margaret were uncovering. Perhaps these sketches were her way of leaving a part of herself behind, Lily said thoughtfully, a way to ensure her spirit lingered in the places she loved. Margaret nodded, a soft smile on her lips, her thoughts mirroring his. We should bring them back down to share with the innkeeper. They deserve to be appreciated. Carefully, they packed the sketches back into the box, their spirits high with the knowledge that they held pieces of Eliza's soul in their hands. Descending the stairs, the weight of their discovery felt lighter, almost buoyant, as they returned to the warmth of the common room. The innkeeper was waiting with a fresh pot of tea, and they gathered around the table once again. As the sketches were revealed, the innkeeper's face lit up, her fingers gently tracing over the lines as though reconnecting with an old friend. She would be delighted to know you found her treasures, the innkeeper said softly, a tear glistening in her eye. We must share these with the townsfolk. They deserve to see Eliza's vision. A plan began to take shape, an idea bubbling up in the warmth of that intimate space. They decided to host a gathering at the inn later that evening, inviting the handful of guests and locals to share Eliza's artwork and stories. The anticipation grew in their hearts as they realized they were not just piecing together Eliza's past, but also igniting a spark of her spirit in the community. As afternoon unfolded and the sun arched higher in the sky, they prepared for the evening's gathering. The innkeeper and Margaret worked tirelessly, setting out the sketches, arranging them along the walls to create a gallery of sorts. Billy helped, his heart beating steadily with a thrilling sense of purpose. Do you think people will come? Margaret asked, stepping back to survey their work. Billy smiled, a feeling of confidence embracing him. I think they will realize the story is timeless. People are drawn to it. As shadows began to stretch across the room with the sun dipping lower in the sky, the inn found its life in the laughter of guests and locals who stepped through the door, intrigued by the invitation to share in the story of a woman they had long since forgotten. Billy welcomed them, mingling with the townsfolk and absorbing the stories they shared, each soul weaving its narrative into the rich fabric surrounding Eliza's legacy. The inn hummed with life as more people arrived, and Margaret and the innkeeper moved gracefully through the crowd, sharing their enthusiasm for Eliza's art and life. As the lanterns were lit, casting a gentle ambience over the gathering, Billy stood back, admiring the scene, the joy, the curiosity sparking in people's eyes, and the shared connections forming in the room. He felt a warmth sitting in his chest, knowing that Eliza's memory was being honored in all the right ways. As the evening wore on, Billy took a moment to step outside, the cool air awakening his senses. The ocean roared softly in the distance, resonating with the heartbeat of the inn behind him. He gazed at the horizon, where the sky melted into hues of deep blue and gold, marveling at the beauty surrounding him. Thank you, Eliza, he breathed, hoping that somehow, in the gentle evening breeze, she might hear him. Thank you for guiding us here, for sharing your story. When he returned inside, the gathering was in full swing. Laughter bubbled up, echoed by the soft chatter of voices voicing admiration and wonder at Eliza's sketches. Billy joined Margaret, who was animatedly discussing one of the drawings with a young girl, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Look at how she captured the lighthouse, Margaret explained, pointing toward the sketch. She made it seem alive, didn't she? The girl nodded, her expression rapt. It looks like it's watching over the sea. Exactly, Margaret replied, her enthusiasm infectious. That's what Eliza did. She brought life to our world through her art. As the night deepened, they shared stories and laughter, each moment building a bridge between Eliza's past and the present. Billy felt the threads of connection between them all weaving together, creating a tapestry of community and shared experience, each person's narrative intertwining with Eliza's legacy. The gathering began to wind down, and as the lanterns flickered above, Billy and Margaret took a moment to soak it all in. What a beautiful night, Billy reflected, his heart content. Margaret smiled, her gaze sweeping over the gathering of newfound friends and shared histories. Eliza would be proud. As the last guest bid farewell and the inn slipped into a soft hush, Billy and Margaret helped the innkeeper tidy up, laughter and stories echoing in the dim glow of lantern light. They felt a collective warmth radiating from the connections they had fostered, a gentle reminder of the power of storytelling. As the final lantern was extinguished, Billy turned to Margaret, the night air cool against their skin. What do you think tomorrow will hold? Margaret looked at him, eyes sparkling with possibility. I think it will hold even more of Eliza's secrets, waiting for us to uncover them. Billy nodded, a feeling of peace settling over him. I believe you're right, we'll carry her legacy forward. They exchanged a knowing smile, hearts buoyed by the journey that had only just begun. With a shared understanding, they walked back to their rooms, the essence of the night surrounding them, a gentle promise of adventures to come. The lighthouse stood tall against the night sky, its light guiding them into the future, illuminating the paths of dreams yet to be realized. Billy laid down in bed, the echoes of the evening humming softly in his mind, comfort wrapping around him as he drifted into a serene state, eager for the dawn of another day filled with discovery evening still lingering in the corners of his mind. He feels a blend of warmth and contentment envelop him. The night carries a promise of secrets yet to be unveiled, resting gently in the air around him. As twilight merges into deeper night, Billy closes his eyes, drifting into dreams colored by the laughter and stories that filled the inn just hours before. The soft light of the morning sun finds its way into the room through a gap in the curtains, casting a warm glow that nudges Billy awake. He stretches languidly, the calm sound of the waves out beyond the inn stirring a feeling of hope and adventure in his heart. Rising from bed, he retrieves the box of Eliza's letters, allowing the scent of aged paper to wash over him, igniting his curiosity for the stories within. Billy dresses and makes his way to the common room, where the familiar presence of the innkeeper fills the space with comforting routines. The heavy scent of freshly baked bread hangs in the air. Billy greets her, feeling the warmth of her smile wrap around him like a familiar blanket. Good morning, Billy. Breakfast will be ready shortly, she assures him, bustling about with a graceful ease. Thank you. It smells wonderful, Billy replies, taking a seat by a window that overlooks the sea. He watches as the sunlight dances on the water, each glimmer a reflection of the joy that has taken root within him. The morning feels ripe with possibilities, and he's eager to dive deeper into Eliza's world. Margaret joins him soon after, her hair still slightly tousled from sleep, but her eye shining with the promise of a new day. I thought we could start with the sketches again this morning, she suggests, her enthusiasm infectious. There's so much detail in them. I feel we've only just scratched the surface of what Eliza wanted to convey. Billy nods, feeling the same thrill of discovery. They finish their breakfast in eager anticipation, then climb the stairs to the attic, the wood creaking beneath their feet, each step filled with a feeling of adventure. In the attic, the sketches surround them, capturing moments from Eliza's life, from the rugged coastline to the quaint corners of the village. Billy picks up one with a depiction of fishermen casting their nets into a calm sea, their lines striking against the water's surface like poetry. Eliza had witnessed these quiet moments of life, the rhythm of the sea mingling with the pulse of the village. Look at how she captured the light, Margaret points out, her finger tracing the brushstrokes. It feels like you can almost hear the waves. Billy studies the sketch, imagining the sound of the nets hitting the water, the chatter of the fishermen as they greet the day's work. It's a part of her essence, he says, feeling the weight of her spirit lingering within every line. There's a connection here, a story waiting to be told. With renewed purpose, they sift through the letters, the delicate handwriting revealing snippets of Eliza's thoughts, hopes, and dreams. Each letter unfolds more of her character, her passion for the world around her, a soft rhythm that resonated with the life of the inn, the village she loved, and the sea that cradled them all. Do you think she had a favorite place? Margaret muses, looking out the attic window towards the lighthouse. It seems like it's always been a part of her stories. Lee takes a moment to reflect. It's possible, he replies, maybe we should visit it later. The thought ignites a spark of inspiration in him, a yearning to explore the grounds of Eliza's life. They decide to take a break from the attic, carrying the sketches outside so they can breathe in the salty air while surrounded by the beauty that inspired Eliza. They wander through the gardens that bloom around the inn, flowers bursting with colors under the gentle caress of the sun. The bees hum busily among the petals, attending to their endless tasks, while the wind sings softly through the leaves, creating a backdrop for their contemplations. Can you imagine the stories she must have spun in this very garden? Margaret asks, her eyes brightening with excitement. Or the moments she captured, Lee adds, a smile on his face. It's incredible to think that she poured her heart into every stroke. With a shared glance, they set off toward the lighthouse, the outline growing clear as they approach. The path leads them down to the rocky shore, the sound of waves lapping against the stones creating a steady rhythm that echoes the heartbeat of the coastal landscape. As they arrive at the lighthouse, Lee feels a feeling of reverence wash over him. It stands tall and resolute, a sentinel of time, guarding the secrets of the sea. They wander around its base, the salty breeze teasing their hair, and Lee notices the way the sun reflects off the whitewashed walls, illuminating the small cracks like stories etched into its very being. This must have been a part of her world, her inspiration. Lee turns to Margaret, his voice filled with awe. She captured not just the lighthouse, but everything it represented to her. Margaret leans against the weathered stone, gazing up at the beacon that has guided so many home. There's such strength in its presence, it's like a reminder that no matter the storm, there's always light, she replies softly. They explore the surrounding area, taking in the views of the coastline stretching beyond, the waves forming a soothing symphony that speaks of journeys undertaken and memories made. They perch on a rocky outcrop, feeling small yet connected to the vastness of the world that Eliza roamed. We should make this a gathering place tonight, Lee suggests, feeling a surge of inspiration. A place to honor her, to share more of her stories with the others. Margaret nods in agreement, her eyes sparkling. Yes, let's invite everyone to join us here. There's a certain magic in this place. As the afternoon unfolds, they head back to the inn, the sun dipping lower in the sky. Lee feels a feeling of urgency to prepare, to gather everyone and share the stories that Eliza left behind. They brainstorm ideas, their excitement building as they organize the sketches and letters into a format that will showcase Eliza's life beautifully. When evening finally approaches, the inn is buzzing with anticipation. Lee and Margaret have arranged the sketches against the walls, each piece drawing the eyes of those who enter, capturing the hearts and imaginations of the small gathering. The aroma of baked goods and savory dishes wafts through the commons, inviting guests to sit and share in the warmth of community and the memories they are about to resurrect. As the first guests arrive, Lee welcomes them with a smile, feeling the connections deepen as people gather around the displays. Stories begin to flow, laughter mingling with soft conversations, a harmonious blend of voices tying each individual to Eliza's art and spirit. Margaret steps forward, her hands gesturing toward the sketches. We are so grateful you could join us tonight to celebrate Eliza. Her artistry captured not only our surroundings but the very essence of our lives here. The guests nod and murmur their agreement, the energy of the room crackling with shared sentiment. Billy watches as people examine the sketches, their eyes lighting up with recognition. Billy steps closer to the sketches, pointing out the small details, the way Eliza portrayed the light catching the water, or the swirls of the clouds above the village. Each piece tells a story, spreading Eliza's heart across the room. As Lee mingles, he feels a gentle familiarity building with each conversation. The stories shared, the laughter that fills the air, all dance around him like music, harmonizing with the whispers of the past. Time slips away softly, like the ebbing waves outside. The sun sets, painting a canvas of colors across the sky, illuminating the room through the windows in a warm, golden light. It feels as though Eliza herself is present, her spirit woven through every moment, every laugh. As dusk deepens, Lee stands outside for a moment, taking in the tranquil beauty of the lighthouse rising against the night sky. The stars begin to appear, twinkling like tiny lanterns, guiding thoughts and dreams into the vast expanse of possibility. A gentle breeze carries the air of exhilaration mingled with remembrance, and Lee finds himself whispering a quiet thank you to Eliza for her unwavering inspiration. Returning inside, the atmosphere hums softly, the gathering still vibrant with warmth and connection. The stories of Eliza are filling the room, each one building upon the last, creating a weighty bond between them all. It brings forth a sensation of belonging, an invisible thread weaving them closer together, reaffirming the significance of community. As the night deepens, the lanterns flicker gently, casting soft shadows that dance upon the walls. Lee gazes around the room, feeling a swell of contentment within him. It feels like a celebration of life, a festival of memories. Eventually, as the gathering begins to wind down, Lee and Margaret help to tidy up, laughter still echoing between them, their hearts buoyed by the shared stories. The night settles into a soft hush, a gentle reminder that while Eliza may no longer be present, her legacy continues to resonate through the lives she touched. With the last lantern extinguished, Lee retreats to his room, a soft sigh escaping his lips as he eases into bed. The echoes of the evening linger in the corners of his mind, and he feels both the weight and warmth of connection pulling him into a serene state. His eyes grow heavy, held by the gentle sound of waves outside, and he lets the rhythm of the sea carry him into dreams, content in the knowledge that Eliza's spirit will continue to guide him through the stories yet to be told. The clock on the wall ticks softly in the stillness of the night, its steady rhythm harmonizing with the waves crashing against the shore. Willie lies beneath the worn quilt, the fabric a patchwork of colors, each square telling a story of its own. His eyelids grow heavier, the memories of laughter and warmth fading into the background as he slips further into slumber. In the quiet of his dreams, he finds himself transported to the very heart of Eliza's world, a sea of colors and textures surrounding him, vibrant and alive. The inn is alive with energy, filled with the echoes of joyous conversations and the sweet scent of homemade pies cooling on the windowsill. The air is thick with history, yet it feels as fresh as the morning dew. He walks through the familiar spaces, each room a chapter unfolding before him like pages in a treasured book. Billy opens a door to a sunlit studio, where light spills in through tall windows, illuminating canvases splattered with colors. The air is a blend of paint and possibility. Eliza is there, a brush in her hand, her laughter ringing like bells in the air. She turns, a smile lighting up her face, and invites him to join her in creating something beautiful. As they paint together, he feels her passion flow from her into his own heart, each stroke a story shared, each hue a reminder of her love for the world around her. But just as Lee begins to understand the rhythm of her artistry, the scene shifts, and he finds himself standing on the rocky shore, the lighthouse standing tall against the night sky. It towers over him, a beacon of light cast across the waters. He feels a sudden urge to climb the winding staircase that leads to the lantern room, a feeling of purpose driving him forward as the cool sea breeze tickles his skin. Each step resonates with the echoes of Eliza's dreams, the stories she carried within her like treasures buried in the sand. Reaching the top, Lee steps out onto the balcony, the vastness of the sea unfolding before him. He breathes deeply, taking in the salty air, and for a moment he imagines that Eliza is by his side, pointing out constellations and sharing her visions of the world beyond the horizon. Here, he understands her longing and endless adventure waiting just out of sight, filled with mysteries and beauty. With a contented sigh, Lee gathers the courage to leap into those dreams, letting the wind carry him into the depths of the unknown. A gentle noise, like a soft knock, pulls him back from the embrace of that vivid dream. It is still dark, and a sliver of moonlight streaks through the window, casting a silvery glow across the room. Lee stirs, blinking away the remnants of sleep, feeling the weight of the night's journey gently lifting from his mind. The quiet settles once more, but he finds himself restless. A sense of purpose stirs within him, urging him out of bed. The letters, the stories contained within the delicate folds of paper, dance at the edges of his thoughts. How could he sleep now, when he was so close to uncovering the essence of Eliza? Rising from his cocoon of warmth, he carefully lights a candle, the flickering flame casting a warm light that chases away the shadows lurking in the corners of his room. The flicker takes on a life of its own, illuminating the box that rests patiently on the small table beside his bed. Lee approaches it, feeling both excitement and reverence. With hands steady, he opens the wooden box, its smooth surface worn from years of love. Inside lie the letters, each one a thread connecting him to Eliza's thoughts and dreams. He picks up the first envelope, delicate and yellowed with age, the ink slightly smudged, yet still legible. As he unfolds the letter, the scent of paper mingled with a hint of lavender fills the air, bringing Eliza's presence into the room. Her words flow like a gentle stream. Dear friend, if you are reading this, it means my stories are no longer bound to this world. I hope they find solace in your heart as they did in mine. Billy pauses, feeling a warmth blossoming within him. He can picture Liza sitting by the window under the soft light of dusk, her pen dancing across the page, her spirit intertwined with each word. He continues to read, each line illuminating her passions, her dreams, her desires. She writes of the lighthouse and the sea, of the colors that fill her life, and the way sunsets remind her of fleeting moments that deserve to be cherished. Billy loses himself in the pages, each letter drawing him deeper into the layers of Eliza's world. Time flows differently in this quiet space as the candle flickers, shadows lengthening on the walls, mingling with the soft sounds of the waves beyond his window. The next letter speaks of a secret cove she discovered, a place where the water sparkled like diamonds, and the cliffs held echoes of laughter, the secret hideaway preserved just for her. He feels a pull, imagining her standing there, arms outstretched, embracing the beauty that the world has to offer. He reads on about the people she loved in the village, their faces painted in her memories, their stories woven into her canvas, the way their joy and sorrow inspired her art. It is a portrait of a life lived fully, each inked word a stroke of her brush painting a broader picture of connection and community. As he reaches the last letter, a gentle wave of melancholy washes over him. Liza's thoughts pour out in a tender farewell, filled with gratitude for the simple joys and the relationships that had given her life meaning. She urges the reader to cherish their own stories, to find and embrace beauty in the ordinary. With a sigh, Billy closes the box, feeling both fulfilled and sad. In the dim glow of the candlelight, he allows himself a moment to reflect. Liza's words have stirred something deep within him, a wish to honor her legacy by seeking out the hidden beauty in his own life. To find the cove she cherished and stand within the same embrace of the waves, to paint his own stories across the canvas of the world. He rises from the table, the night air feeling cool against his skin. Billy steps to the window, gazing out into the vastness of the night, the lighthouse still standing sentinel, its beam cutting through the twilight, a symbol of hope. The light dances with the stars, and he realizes the threads of his own life are woven into those of the community he's grown to love. Deciding he cannot rest until he has explored Eliza's cherished places, Lee prepares to venture out. He dresses quickly, the anticipation bubbling up within him. The night is still and peaceful, and outside, he can hear the call of the waves, inviting him into their rhythm. He slips outside, the coolness of the air brushing against his cheeks. As he walks toward the lighthouse, he finds a feeling of belonging. The path beneath his feet feels familiar. The sound of the ocean calms his thoughts. The lantern beam swings lazily across the water, illuminating patches of the dark canvas, a guide through the stillness. His heart beats softly, each step echoing with Eliza's spirit. Arriving at the old lighthouse, he pauses, taking in its worn stones, the salty air clinging to the weathered walls. The door stands slightly ajar, inviting him inside. A spark of excitement courses through him as he pushes it open, the hinges creaking gently, as though awakening from a deep slumber. Inside, the scent of aged wood and the ocean mingle in a comforting embrace. Billy climbs the familiar spiral staircase, the walls a patchwork of memories and echoes. He reaches the top and steps out onto the balcony, where the ocean stretches endlessly beneath a blanket of stars. The waves crash rhythmically against the rocks, a symphony of sound that resonates deep within him. Billy leans against the railing, the cool metal grounding him. In that moment, surrounded by the vastness of the sea and sky, he feels a feeling of clarity washing over him. He closes his eyes and remembers Eliza, the joy she found in each moment, her laughter that lingered long after she had gone. He takes a deep breath, inhaling the salty air, and allows his heart to fill with the possibilities of his own journey. The path ahead may be uncertain, but now there is a flicker of hope and guidance lighting the way. In the stillness of the night, with the stars twinkling bright above him, Billy understands that he is forever intertwined with Eliza's legacy. Each step he takes will echo the stories of those who have come before him, and he is ready to embrace all the chapters yet unwritten, the ones waiting to be discovered in the cove where the water sparkles like diamonds. As he stands upon the lighthouse balcony, he feels anchored by the beauty surrounding him, a blend of the past and the present guiding him toward the future. Billy savors this moment, allowing it to imprint upon his heart as the night deepens and the sea continues its timeless lullaby. Each wave carries whispers of dreams yet to unfold, and Billy is ready to listen. The night settled deeper over the coastal inn and the lighthouse, the stars now shimmering like tiny lanterns scattered across a vast expanse of velvet. Billy lingered on the balcony a little longer, allowing the cool night air to fill his lungs, invigorating him for what lay ahead. The steady cadence of the waves played in harmony with his heartbeat, a rhythmic reminder of the world's persistence, even in the quiet. After a final moment of contemplation, he stepped back inside the lighthouse, the door creaking gently behind him. The interior felt still, as though it, too, was caught in a reverent pause. Billy descended the spiral staircase, each footfall echoing softly, the wood warm beneath his touch. He made his way back to his room, the faint scent of the ocean trailing behind him, holding the memories of Eliza close. Once inside, he sat by the small window that overlooked the sea. The moonlight cast silvery patterns on the walls, and he could hear the gentle lapping of waves against the shore. The soft glow illuminated his letters, which lay fanned out on the table, the ink still dark and vivid. Each page beckoned him, filled with Eliza's dreams and her zest for life. Billy picked up the first letter again, the one that spoke of her beloved cove. Reading her words, he felt her presence, a radiant spirit that filled the room with warmth. Her joy for the little things, the way the sunlight danced upon the water, the laughter of children playing nearby, the flitting of butterflies in the garden reminded him of how much beauty surrounded them even in the simplest of moments. He longed to fill his own life with such wonder. As he finished the letter, Billy set it down and gazed out toward the horizon. The sea shimmered in the moonlight, revealing a world brimming with mystery just beyond reach. He knew, with a sudden certainty, that he would find the cove Eliza cherished, where the sky kissed the sea, and perhaps even where she first felt her dreams take flight. Billy stood and moved about the room, gathering essentials for his adventure. He packed a small satchel, placing inside a canteen filled with fresh water, a few slices of bread, and a small notebook for thoughts and sketches he hoped to capture. The night whispered of possibilities, and he felt an excitement building within him, laced with trepidation and curiosity. As he readied himself, the ocean's constant murmur seemed to grow louder, urging him forward with the promise of discovery. The stillness of the inn wrapped around him, providing a comforting backdrop to his preparations. With one last glance in the mirror, he stepped outside again, the chill of the air invigorating him further. The path that led down toward the shore was illuminated by the silver light of the moon, which painted the rocky terrain with a gentle glow. Billy walked deliberately, each step taken with purpose, the familiar sounds of the inn fading behind him. He could hear the faint rustle of leaves in the breeze, the quiet dance of nature stirring from its own slumber. As he reached the bottom of the hill, he felt the cool, damp sand beneath his feet. The ocean stretched out before him, a vast canvas of shimmering darkness, each wave a brushstroke of movement and sound. Lee paused for a moment, allowing his senses to soak in the beauty around him, the scent of salt and seaweed filling his lungs. He noticed the first signs of dawn beginning to break on the horizon, a soft gradient of colors emerging from the darkness, a promise of a new day. Yet, the cove Eliza spoke of was still hidden from his view. He turned to follow the curve of the shoreline, the sand shifting beneath his feet, and the call of the waves guiding him. As he walked along the shore, the sun began to rise, spilling warm light across the water, illuminating the world around him. He inhaled deeply, feeling the warmth on his face, a comforting presence that seemed to welcome him into the day. The laughter of the seagulls pierced the morning air, their wings gliding effortlessly against the backdrop of the waking sky. Lee kept walking, his heart quickening with each step, anticipation building as he searched for the cove that had captured Eliza's heart. The path grew slightly rocky, with tufts of grass peeking through the sand, yet he pressed on, curiosity propelling him forward. The gentle sound of the waves grew more pronounced, their rhythm steady and calming as he drew nearer to his destination. After walking for what felt like an eternity, Lee spotted a break in the cliffs ahead, a hidden recess that seemed to cradle the water gently. He quickened his pace, the promise of discovery drawing him closer, until at last he emerged into the cove, a tranquil paradise set against the rugged coastline. The cove opened up before him, and Lee's breath caught in his throat. The water sparkled beneath the sun's rays, little diamonds shimmering in the light. The cliffs rose majestically on either side, with patches of soft green moss hugging the rocks, creating a lush contrast against the blue waters. He paused at the entrance, taking it all in Eliza's secret haven, a place where her spirit danced and her laughter echoed. He stepped further into the cove, each step revealing the beauty that surrounded him. The sound of the waves crashing against the rocks created a rhythmic applause that seemed to celebrate his arrival. He knelt down by the water's edge, letting the cool tide lap at his feet, the sensation invigorating and refreshing. Reaching into his satchel, he pulled out the small notebook and pencil he had brought along. He found a flat stone to use as a makeshift desk and began jotting down thoughts and sketches inspired by the picturesque landscape. He marveled at the play of light on the water, how the sun illuminated even the most hidden parts of the cove, coaxing life from every crevice. Time slipped away as he captured glimpses of the world around him, the gentle curves of the cliffs, the way the water danced with the light, the fluttering of wildflowers growing at the edge. In the quiet of the cove, he felt a connection to Eliza. He imagined her here, laughing and twirling, her spirit infused into every corner of the sacred place. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Lee finally set his notebook aside and closed his eyes, allowing the warmth of the sun to bathe over him. The sound of the waves reminded him of a lullaby, each crest and fall echoing the stories of those who had come before him, mingling with his own thoughts and dreams. Lee opened his eyes, filled with a feeling of clarity and gratitude. He was anchored here in this moment, connecting with the essence of Eliza and the life she had cherished. There was an unspoken promise held within the boundaries of this cove, a legacy that he felt compelled to honor by gracefully navigating his own journey. He took a deep breath, letting the salty air fill his lungs, invigorating his spirit. The world felt alive around him, and he sensed that this was just the beginning of something profound, a journey that intertwined his path with the heart of someone who had touched the world with her kindness and light. As the day wore on, Lee explored the cove, climbing over rocks and collecting smooth shells that caught his eye, each one a memory waiting to be discovered. He felt the sun tracing patterns on his skin, a warm reminder of the beauty that existed in both his past and present. He was learning to celebrate the moments that stretched before him, to find joy in both solitude and the whispers of the sea. With the afternoon sun warming the rocks, Lee returned to his notebook, sketching the unique shapes and textures he had seen, pouring his heart onto the page. He pinned down stories yet to unfold, capturing the essence of the code that would remain with him long after he left. Each line held the weight of his growing connection to Eliza, a journey that transcended time. As the sky began to shift toward dusk, painting vibrant hues of orange and pink, Lee knew it was time to prepare for the return to the inn. The thought tugged at him, a reminder that the world continued to spin beyond this hidden sanctuary. Yet, he felt different than when he first arrived. The cove had become part of him, a piece of Eliza's legacy woven into the fabric of his soul. Reluctantly, Lee took one last look around, absorbing every detail of the beauty surrounding him, before stepping back onto the sandy path leading out of the cove. The tide continued to ebb and flow, a haunting melody that would linger in his thoughts, a gentle reminder of the connection he had forged that day. As he made his way back to the inn, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft glow over the landscape. The silhouette of the lighthouse stood tall against the fading light, a watchful guardian over the night to come. Billy felt an overwhelming sense of peace settle over him, a sense that he belonged to this place, to the stories etched into the shoreline and the whispers of the sea that followed him home. The door to the inn creaked open as he returned, the familiar scent of wood mingling with the salty air. He paused for a moment, letting the comfort of the inn envelop him. The guests around him moved quietly, as though they, too, were touched by the tranquility of the evening. Billy made his way to his room, the stars beginning to flicker above, twinkling with the promise of dreams yet to unfold. Inside, he sat at the window once more, gazing out at the rolling waves under the moonlight. A contentment washed over him, a feeling of purpose and direction that had been ignited in the cove. He reached for his notebook, ready to capture the day's adventures, a symphony of memories that would remain woven into his heart. Billy began to write, his thoughts flowing freely onto the page as he reflected on how far he had come. The words tumbled out, a blend of his discovery and the love he held for Eliza. Each letter danced across the paper, creating a connection that transcended time and space. As night descended, the world outside grew quiet, the sounds of the inn mingling with the melody of the waves. Lee penned his final thoughts, a promise to honor Eliza's spirit as he journeyed through life, embracing the beauty that lay in each moment. He closed his notebook, feeling the weight of the day settling comfortably around him, a warm embrace of hope and determination. With a deep breath, he set the notebook aside and turned his gaze back to the shimmering sea, letting himself drift into a peaceful slumber, the gentle rhythm of the tide cradling him into dreams. In that moment, he knew he would continue to seek out the stories waiting to be uncovered, honoring Eliza's legacy as he embarked on each new adventure there, the waves murmuring softly. He felt an urge to step beyond the walls that held his memories, to immerse himself in the world that thrived beyond the threshold. He rose from the window and took a moment to gather his belongings. The notebook, filled with reflections and promises, was tucked securely beneath his arm. Swapping his simple nightshirt for a fitted coat, he took one last look around the room, hesitant to leave the comforting space behind. The inn was quiet, the only sound coming from the gentle rustle of fabric as the wind swept through the narrow corridors. Lee moved carefully down the hallway, the floorboards creaking beneath him. He paused briefly outside the door of an empty room, picturing the various guests who had briefly occupied those spaces, each perhaps harboring their own stories, their dreams woven into the very fabric of the inn. Feeling the pull of the night guiding him, Billy stepped outside, where the cool breeze brushed against his skin. The air was alive with scents of salt and earth, a mixture that anchored him further into the moment. He glanced up at the stars, their brilliance a reflection of the vast potential the night promised. Walking toward the beach, the sand crunched softly beneath his boots, each step anchoring him deeper into the experience. He approached the shoreline, where the moonlight danced over the water, its path shimmering like a silver ribbon leading him into the embrace of the waves. Blake could see, in the distance, the lighthouse standing sentinel, its light sweeping back and forth as though guiding him to his purpose. Lee sat at the edge of the sand, the coolness seeping through his clothes. The water lapped playfully at his feet, each wave pulling away grains of sand, a gentle reminder of the ever-changing nature of life. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the sound of the sea fill his mind, a calming symphony that echoed with the rhythm of his heartbeat. As he sat there, he pulled out his notebook, its pages still crisp and inviting, and began to write once more. He poured his thoughts onto the page, capturing not just the essence of the moment but the depth of his feelings for Eliza. "What would you think of this place?" he wrote, imagining her laughter mingling with the roar of the waves. Would it fill your heart with joy, as it does mine? After a little while, Lee lifted his gaze toward the horizon, where the sky met the sea. A faint glow kissed the edge of the water, hinting at the arrival of the morning. He felt a feeling of urgency stir within him, a desire to discover the secrets of the cove he had glimpsed the previous day. He rose, brushing the sand from his coat, and headed toward the water's edge, curious like a child exploring uncharted territory. The ground yawned beneath the water, and as Elise stepped closer, the sand shifted underfoot, cool and welcoming. A soft mist curled around him, wrapping around his legs like the gentle caress of a long-lost friend. He explored the shoreline, pausing frequently to examine seashells, smooth stones, and driftwood interspersed amongst the seaweed. Each item felt like a treasure, remnants of stories untold, secrets of the ocean waiting to be uncovered. He collected a few shells, their colors muted yet beautiful, gently tucking them into his coat pocket, a small tribute to the morning's discoveries. With the tide receding, Billy spotted the mouth of a small cove, its entrance beckoning him like a familiar whisper. He approached carefully, the wet sand gripped at his feet with each step until he found himself within the gentle embrace of the rocky alcove. The sound of crashing waves softened here, replaced by a delicate gurgle as the water pooled in secluded pockets filled by the tide. Within the cove, the air felt different, alive with possibilities. The slanting walls of rock cradled vibrant clusters of seaweed and barnacles, their textures rough and beautiful against the smooth surfaces of the stones. It was a hidden haven, seemingly untouched by time, a realm where nature thrived undisturbed. Willie felt drawn deeper into this world, where time slowed almost to a halt. As he wandered along the rocks, he noticed a glimmer of something half buried in the sand. Crouching down, he carefully unearthed a weathered bottle, its glass frosted and etched by years of salt and sand. Willie held it up to the light, curiosity igniting in his chest. The possibility of the message inside filled his mind with wonder. What could it hold? A forgotten message? A relic from the past? With determination, he uncorked the bottle and peered inside. A rolled piece of parchment greeted him, its edges frayed and delicate. Carefully, he extracted the note and smoothed it with trembling hands. The ink, faded but readable, formed a beautiful flowing script. May the tides always guide you, and may you find solace among the stars. The words seemed to resonate deeply within him, as though they were meant for his heart alone. Willie read through the note multiple times, contemplating its meaning. Was it a call to adventure, a reminder to treasure the simple moments? It felt both ancient and fresh, echoing the sentiments he held dear, the importance of connection and the beauty of the unknown. As he stood there, he heard the faintest sound of laughter drifting through the air, intertwining with the rhythm of the waves. Willie turned, half expecting to see Eliza standing behind him, her spirit as vibrant as the sun rising above the horizon. But the cove remained empty, the only company the whisper of the breeze and the songs of the sea. With renewed purpose, Willie slipped the note back inside the bottle and decided it would stay with him, a tangible reminder of his journey forward. It was a fragment of something greater, a connection to those who had walked the shore long before him. Willie took one last look around the cove as the sun began to rise, painting the sky in soft hues of gold and rose, the world awakening in gentle bursts of color. It was a promise of new beginnings, a chance to forge ahead into a story that was still being written. He made his way back to the inn, leaving the cove behind but carrying its spirit within him. The path seemed illuminated, the way ahead clear. He was eager to share the morning's discoveries, the stories he would weave, and the threads of Eliza's life that would continue to intertwine with his own. The inn welcomed him back like an old friend, the murmur of guests stirring with the arrival of the new day. Willie entered the common room, where the rich scent of brewing coffee mingled with the warmth of freshly baked bread. A few guests sat scattered about, engaged in quiet conversation or reading, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of morning light filtering through the windows. "Good morning," Billy called out Mrs. Finch, the innkeeper, her smile brightening the room. "You're up early. Did you catch the sunrise?" "I did," Billy replied, a grin breaking across his face. the thrill of the morning still surging through him. It was breathtaking, just like the cove. I found there's something special. Intrigued, a few of the guests turned their attention to Ali. Their curiosity piqued as he shared the story of the cove and the note he discovered in the bottle. The room filled with gentle laughter and light conversation, the sounds blending seamlessly with the ambience of the inn as they exchanged their own stories. Ali felt a feeling of belonging envelop him, the warmth of community wrapping around him as he recounted his morning. For each word spoken, he could feel Eliza's spirit amplifying, her laughter echoing through the memories they had shared and those yet to come. After the bustling morning settled into a comfortable hum, Lee found himself at a corner table, jotting down his thoughts while sipping slowly on a cup of coffee. Each sip felt grounding, as though it was helping him carve out his place in this world, a world that had become both familiar and extraordinary. Outside, the sun rose higher, casting a golden light over the inn and illuminating everything it touched, the promise of the new day stretching out before him. Lee's heart swelled with warmth and gratitude as he gazed out, envisioning all the stories still to be told, each moment a thread waiting to be woven into the fabric of his life. He knew he would carry the spirit of the cove with him, a sacred reminder that life is ever changing yet ever constant, filled with stories waiting for a listener. And as he looked up toward the lighthouse, standing tall and resolute, he understood that each journey, each adventure, was a testament to the connections made along the way and acknowledgement of Eliza's legacy, which would live on through him, and every letter, every tide, and every sunrise that beckoned him forward. Lee stepped into the inn, the door creaking softly behind him as he filled his lungs with the warmth and familiarity of the common room. Mrs. Finch bustled about, serving breakfast with the ease of long practice, her cheerful demeanor a steady thread through the life of the inn. The soft chatter of the guests, punctuated by the occasional clinking of cutlery and the bubbling of coffee, enveloped Lee like a comforting blanket. He made his way to the long wooden table, where a few guests were already gathered. The morning light streamed through the wide windows, casting playful shadows across their faces, illuminating the glimmers of curiosity as they noticed him approach. "Billy, you look as though the sea has bestowed you with treasures this morning," remarked a man with a thick mustache, seated next to a young woman who seemed equally intrigued. With a smile, Billy reached into his pocket and withdrew a beautifully spiraled shell, its surface polished by the gentle caress of the waves. "I found this, along with a note tucked inside a bottle by the shore. It speaks of connection and guidance, words that feel like a gentle nudge from the past," he explained, letting the shell catch the light and a glimmer of color. The young woman leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with interest. "What does the note say? Did you read it?" Willie nodded, holding the shell like a storyteller would a prized possession. "It's a reminder of the stories we share and the bonds we create. Each wave that crashes upon the shore carries echoes of those who came before us." The guests listened intently, their breakfast momentarily forgotten, as Lee recounted the mystery of the bottle and the feelings that rose within him upon reading the note. His words flowed easily, animated by the beauty of the morning and the lingering spirit of Eliza. "I think," Lee continued, his voice steady and calm, "that the coast has secrets to whisper, and it's up to us to listen. Perhaps we should dedicate today to discovering more of what it has to tell us." A murmur of agreement rippled through the table. Mrs. Finch served them pastries, her laughter mingling with the discussions as she encouraged their enthusiasm. "I believe there are hidden coves and trails waiting to be explored. The locals often speak of the cliffs that rise dramatically above the shore. They say there's an ancient stone that holds the stories of the past etched into its face," she added. Billy's curiosity was piqued. "Have you seen it?" he asked, leaning forward, eager to learn more. "I've glimpsed it," replied Mrs. Finch, wiping her hands on her apron, "but it's a trek, a bit rough in spots. It would take a steady pair of shoes and a thirst for adventure to reach it." "I'm willing," Billy said, glancing around the table. "Who else would like to join me?" Slowly, hands began to rise. The young woman who had asked about the note smiled brightly. "Count me in. I've never seen the cliffs. Exploring sounds like the perfect way to clear my mind," she said, her excitement infectious. Me too, added the mustached man. I've grown weary of always standing by the shore. Adventure beckons. One by one, the guests began to commit to the journey. Billy felt a thrill of camaraderie, the light in the room brightening with shared enthusiasm. They lifted their cups in a toast to adventure, the sound echoing softly around the common room. As the group prepared to set out, Billy felt a light in his heart, guided by an undercurrent of hope and possibility. He gathered the shells he had collected, carefully placing them in his coat pocket alongside the note. With each small motion, the connection he felt to Eliza strengthened, as though she walked beside him, urging him onward. Once everyone was ready, they stepped outside. The day had warmed, the breeze carrying the scent of the sea and the promise of discovery. Billy took the lead, his step steady and purposeful as they made their way toward the cliffs, the path lined with wild flowers swaying gently in rhythm with the wind. As they walked, laughter and chatter filled the air, stories exchanged about the individuals they had become and the threads that brought them together. Billy marveled at the tapestry of lives intertwined, each person carrying their own tale, yet united by the shared moment by the coast. The path twisted and turned, revealing glimpses of the shimmering blue water below. Billy paused often to admire the view, to let the salt air fill his lungs, and to feel the sun warming his skin. The cliffs rose in the distance, steep and rugged, seeming almost otherworldly against the backdrop of sky and sea. Almost there, he encouraged, glancing back at the group. Each face glowed with excitement, determination propelling them forward. It was not long before they reached the base of the cliffs. Billy's heartbeat quickened as he took in the sight, the towering stone appearing ancient and wise. Its weathered face bore the marks of time, as though every crack told a story, every formation a whisper from the past. Look at that! Billy pointed to a large opening, a small cave-like structure nestled into the side. Shall we see what's inside? Without hesitation, the group made their way toward the cave. As they entered, a cool breeze greeted them, the air carrying the salty scent of the sea. The walls were damp, and Ellie could see faint markings etched into the stone symbols that glimmered faintly as the light flickered through, creating shadows that danced across their curious faces. Do you think they mean something? The young woman asked, tracing her fingers over the symbols, her voice filled with wonder. It would seem so, Billy replied, moving closer to examine them himself. Perhaps it's an ancient story waiting to be uncovered. We should document these. As the group took turns sketching and sharing thoughts, Billy felt a deep connection to the past. It was as though he were standing on the shoulders of those who had come before him, a bridge between their stories and the world he knew. After some time, they emerged from the cave, the sun still high in the sky. The view beyond was breathtaking, the cliffs dropping steeply to the turquoise waters that sparkled under the sun. Billy sensed a shift in the air, a growing anticipation, as they gathered at the cliff's edge. The sea stretched out before them, vast and limitless, a reminder of the adventures yet to come. Billy could feel Eliza's spirit all around him, as though she too stood at that edge, urging him to explore further, to seek both wonder and connection. We could walk along the shore, suggested the mustached man, pointing to a narrow path that wound down from the cliffs. It will give us a different perspective of the cove. A splendid idea, Billy agreed, excitement bubbling within him. Let's. They made their descent carefully, the path steep and rocky, but with every step, the allure of the ocean intensified. Once they reached the bottom, the soft thud of their feet on sand felt grounding, the rhythmic crashing of waves felt like a heartbeat, welcoming them back. The shore was a treasure trove of color and texture. Shells of all shapes and sizes dotted the sand, each a story waiting to be told. Billy led the group along the water's edge, pausing occasionally to collect another shell to marvel at the iridescent hues and the intricate designs nature had crafted. The sun arced overhead, casting a golden glow that illuminated their laughter and chatter. Stories continued to flow, tales of childhood adventures, fears faced and conquered, and dreams woven into the fabric of their lives. Billy felt himself grow lighter with every shared laugh, the weight of solitude lifting gently. As the afternoon began to wane, they settled onto the warm sand, letting the waves lap gently at their feet. Lee took a moment to breathe in the beauty around him, the way the sun painted the sky in strokes of orange and pink, the sound of laughter mingling with the surf. I could stay here forever, mused the young woman, her eyes reflecting the colors of the sunset. There's something magical about this place. Lee nodded, his heart echoing her sentiment. It feels timeless, he replied, looking out at the horizon where the sea kissed the sky. Each moment here carries echoes of those before us, binding us to this land in ways we may not yet understand. As the sun dipped lower, casting golden rays that danced upon the water, Lee pulled out the note he had found, feeling the weight of its significance. "Shall I read it to you?" he asked, gathering their attention. They nodded, intrigued, their faces illuminated by the last light of day. Lee unfolded the note with care, the words feeling alive in his hands as he read aloud, sharing the wisdom that had resonated deep within him. In the ebb and flow of life, we are all connected like the tides to the moon, each moment a thread in the tapestry of existence. Seek joy in your discoveries, share love in your truths, and you shall find that even the smallest voices can echo through time. As Lily finished reading, a serene silence enveloped them, the impact of the words lingering like the last light of day. He felt Eliza's spirit beside him, a gentle reminder that her essence thrived in every connection forged, every adventure taken. With dusk approaching, they sat together in comfortable silence, the sky shifting to deeper hues, stars beginning to peek through the darkening canvas. Willie felt the sensation of gratitude swell within him, knowing the day had been filled with stories, laughter, and a deeper sense of belonging, each moment woven into the larger narrative of his life. As night fell, they rose to make their way back to the inn, the path illuminated by the soft glow of lanterns hanging along the way. The sounds of the inn welcomed them back, a familiar sanctuary where laughter and warmth awaited. Inside, the soft crackling of the fireplace greeted them, drawing them to the common room where Mrs. Finch had prepared a hearty supper. Lee felt a deep sense of satisfaction as they settled around the table, sharing hearty servings of stew and bread, the food comforting and nourishing after their day of adventure. The coast truly has its own way of bringing people together, Lee mused, glancing at the faces around him. "Aye, it does," replied the mustached man, raising his cup in a toast. "To shared stories and adventures yet to come." Laughter rang out again, a wonderful symphony echoing warmth as they clinked their cups together, bonds solidifying in the shared light of the evening. As plates emptied and stories continued to flow, the day began to peacefully drift into night. Lee felt himself relax against the warmth of the inn, the flickering candlelight casting a cozy glow around them. It was a space of comfort, of belonging, where tales intertwined like the threads of their lives. Eventually, laughter subsided to soft conversation, the guests growing tired as the evening wore on. Lee felt a tranquil calm settle around him, the memories of the day mixing with the comforting weight of his thoughts. He excused himself, slipping quietly from the common room and ascending the stairs to the small room he had claimed at the inn. The soft creaking of the boards beneath his feet accompanied him, each step grounding him deeper into the present. As he entered his room, he found a stillness inviting him to reflect. The window framed a view of the starlit sky, the moon casting a gentle light that danced across the floor. Willie felt the weight of the day settle into his bones, each moment of exploration weaving itself into the fabric of who he was becoming. He settled onto the bed, the mattress soft beneath him, and closed his eyes for a moment. The gentle sound of the waves lapping against the shore below was a calming lullaby, a reminder of the stories whispered by the sea. Lee opened his eyes, taking a moment to appreciate the stillness around him, the note tucked safely by his bedside, the shells resting on the dresser like reminders of adventure. With a sigh of contentment, he let his body sink into the comforting embrace of rest, feeling gratitude for the connections forged that day and the stories still waiting to unfold. Night deepened around the inn, the world outside quieting as each guest drifted into their own dreams. Willie's heart was light, filled with the echoes of laughter, the warmth of friendships, and the bond that tied him to Eliza, a spirit guiding him through the tapestry of his days. In the depths of night, the sea continued its rhythmic song, a soothing reminder that life ebbed and flowed, weaving the stories of past, present, and future together under the blanket of stars, forever inviting exploration, connection, and discovery. Lee breathed in the cool night air as he lay in his dimly lit room, the gentle murmur of waves weaving through the silence like a soft refrain. The moon cast a silvery glow across the wooden floor, illuminating the shells he had gathered, each one a memory, a story tucked safely away. The day had unfolded like a delicate flower, revealing layers of adventure and connection, and now, in the stillness, he allowed himself to savor the sweetness of it all. The laughter from the common room still echoed faintly in his mind, mingling with the sound of the sea. He could almost hear the joyful exclamations of his fellow guests as they shared tales of their own lives, their dreams, and the adventures that lay ahead. Lee smiled softly, feeling an unfamiliar warmth encircle his heart. He thought of Eliza, her spirit entwining with the very essence of the inn, guiding him to understand the importance of every story and every connection they had made. He turned slightly on the mattress, the fabric cool against his skin. Lee closed his eyes and let the memories wash over him more vividly, the sun-drenched cliffs where they had wandered, the mysterious symbols they had discovered, and the thrill of uncovering pieces of history that had long been forgotten. Each moment was a thread, weaving a tapestry of experiences that grounded him in the present, reminding him of the bonds that formed along this journey. As the night wore on, Lee felt time slow, the world outside drifting into a serene hush. The inn stood as a steadfast guardian against the night, its walls steeped in warmth and comfort. He pictured the flickering candles in the common room, still casting their glow on the faces of those he had come to know, if only for a fleeting moment. The stories they had shared had been like gifts, each wrapped in laughter and woven with the magic of connection. The soft rustle of the wind outside played a gentle melody, a reminder of the vastness of the world beyond the inn. Billy found himself wondering where the morning would lead him. Would he return to the cliffs? Would he seek out new mysteries hidden within the shadows? The thought stirred a quiet excitement within him, a promise that tomorrow would bring more discoveries, more opportunities to weave his own story into the lives of others. With every breath, Lee felt the weight of the day settle about him, a comforting blanket that invited him deeper into rest. The sound of the ocean lulled him, its rhythmic cadence echoing the tranquility that filled the room. He let his mind wander, drifting from thought to thought, until he felt himself begin to float away from the waking world. Outside, the stars continued to twinkle above, each one a distant beacon of wonder, and Lee imagined the stories they might tell if only he could hear them. Night wrapped around the inn like a gentle embrace, and in this cocoon of comfort, he surrendered to the peaceful stillness that enveloped him. At last, the weight of his eyelids became too much to bear. Willie surrendered to the sweet pull of sleep, letting go of the day's joys and mysteries, knowing they would remain woven into the fabric of who he was. As the waves serenaded him into slumber, he felt gratitude for the day, for the laughter, the connections, and the promise of all that was yet to come. In the quiet of the night, he found his dreams waiting, ready to carry him to new adventures, where each moment would bloom like the day that had just passed, full of laughter, warmth, and the ever-present mystery of life. With one last deep breath, Lee drifted peacefully into sleep, cradled by the gentle rhythm of the sea, a world of dreams just beyond the horizon of his mind.